Once again, good morning. Yes, we celebrate Earth Day today, and I come from today from the perspective of health, knowing that health is very important to everyone in terms of one's general well-being and impact that climate has on health. I will say one thing, that the COVID pandemic came as suddenly and quieting down, subsided quietly. It's still there, but climate is insidious. It's insidious. It's the insidious cause of chronic ill health and death, and therefore we must be prepared to actually mitigate and adapt things so that the impact of health does not, the impact of climate does not set us back. Now, I'm going to take you through the science behind climate change, describe some main climate drivers, the effects of climate change on the environment, the constitution in Nigeria, consequences of climate change on health, health plan and climate policy. I'll also use international survey as well. Now, the global climate crisis, we all know that temperatures are rising. They're rising, and I know that we all feel it. In Nigeria presently, they have to keep it, even though there's not big talk about it. 2 years ago in India, you saw them all on CNN, drinking water, cold water. It was a nightmare. It happened in Nigeria, but we're not actually on board it in terms of being publicly aware. People know things have changed. And we can read the global temperature anomalies along with the carbon dioxide emissions. And we can see historically, it's over 800,000 years, they have the ups and downs when it comes to carbon dioxide emissions. But of recent, it might be due to the tools we have. There have been marked rises up to 419 parts per million when it comes to carbon dioxide emissions. And this actually tallies hand in hand with the global temperatures rising. Talking about the science behind climate change, you know about the emissions. Obviously, there's a natural greenhouse effect, but it's exaggerated now that we have the rising temperatures. And what happens is that we've got this layer of greenhouse gases. It's thick, and the heat cannot be released into the outer atmosphere. It's trapped and hits the earth. The main gases are carbon dioxide, there's methane, there's nitrous oxide, and the others as well. This is Port Harcourt. This is usually the refineries. We all know that everybody says the culprit is the fossil fuels. And I wonder, quite frankly, the impact of this on the lungs of people in Port Harcourt. We have not yet seen it, but obviously we have not yet seen the effect. It will take years. The wildfires in the states in California are being studied over the next 10 years. We have done study that will find out what the impact of this suit is. And I am aware that there have been increased from Collins in Port Harcourt. There's increased numbers of respiratory illnesses coming up. Where do the greenhouse gases come from? Largely from fossil fuels, but also from agriculture, particularly around methane, industry, transportation, food waste. These are the major greenhouse emissions. This is the big culprit, but we all have moved to this when it comes to economy. Yes, you can see the countries who actually produce, but largely, I'll show you another slide where actually Africa is not really producer of greenhouse gases. The West is the one taking it all and benefiting from it. Now, I just want to step back and talk about also the forests, deforestation. We know that we take in oxygen, human beings taking oxygen, animals taking oxygen, and they exhale carbon dioxide. The plants, they take in carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. So we say the forests are the lungs of the earth. And we have about 4.06 billion hectares of forest around the world, which accounts for 1% of the land area. And the major ones, big ones, are the Amazon and also the Congo Basin. Nigeria has lost 1.14 million hectares due to fossil, us using it for fuel, and also the big things of people coming in and chopping down our wood and transporting it out. So we've lost about 90%. It's been drastic. This is just a picture of the Amazon. In 1984, this was the forest, Amazon basin. Today, another section of it is almost bare. This is deforestation as well. The Sahara Desert is widening, and the effects of climate change are tornadoes, cyclones, tsunamis, widening deserts, wildfires, and floods. So heat waves. This is the heat wave map. And the dark spots were said to be the current heat wave areas. So these are areas that you have to spend more than 2 hours outside before running in. And this has an impact on labor and on migration. If you can't spend more than 2 hours out to do your agriculture, then it's going to impact on the production. By 2070, the larger parts have been whole, but already we're seeing the impact. Look at Nigeria. We're not yet in 1970, but already the line, the demographics line was already affected. So it's crucial. It's actually on top of us. The climate situation in Nigeria, there's flooding and submersion of the coastal lands are happening. In Lagos, you can see all down the coast of Nigeria, the coastal areas are actually receding. Droughts in the north, a big problem. Lake Chad is drying up, and other rivers are drying up. I was driving down from Gombe all the way to Abuja, and the rivers, lots of the rivers actually dry. That was in January. And then obviously heat waves are the big problem. I'm sure all of us experience heat waves in Nigeria. And this is just heat-resistant states. You can see the drought. So drought-resistant, this states with drought, but it's coming down. Floodings, just pictures of flooding and receding coastlines. Now, Nigeria has a policy. They're up on top of the policy, and by 2050, Nigeria is a country of low carbon, climate resilient, high growth, circular economy. They aim to reduce the current level of emissions by 50%, move towards having net zero emissions across all sectors. And it's gender responsive, so females, very important. And Nigeria has signed up to all the protocols and agreements. You can see it here, and they've already made a lot of adaptations when it comes to their policies. Just to say, Nigeria has nationally determined contributions to the United Nations Climate Change Framework, and they are in line with the Paris Agreement to keep things below 2 degrees. Unconditional contribution, so there are countries that they'll be able to keep it at 20% below business as usual by 2030. And we're going to increase this based on contributions from international donations from actually 47%. And that's provided that there's international support. So there is supposed to be a fund, and Nigeria hopes to tap into this. Nigeria's estimated about $177 billion US. So we need to start working at how to use this money. To get things in place. This is not only for health, it's for everything. These are the main contributors in Nigeria when it comes to greenhouse gases. I think this is not quite right. I think oil and gas are the country to take the largest amount. Now, effects of climate on health. It's a human rights crisis. The generation of the future will be affected. For the first time in COP28, health was mentioned, and investments have to be put aside for health. The direct influences of climate on health, disruption to access to healthcare, infrastructural damage, and supply chains are major areas. Now, when it comes to health, the major things are infectious diseases, epidemics. So we don't really know whether COVID is actually due to climate, but there is the potential that other infections can new infections can come up as a result of the warming temperatures. Malaria can get worse. Dengue fever is another one. Lyme disease. So they're actually stretching outside for normal boundaries. Respiratory illnesses, allergies have increased, and that's because the allergy season has actually expanded. Longer periods, whether the seasons have changed. Asthma is a big problem. Cardiovascular disease, heart attacks have thought to increase as well. Mental health illnesses, health-related illnesses because of heat stroke. Malnutrition, a big thing. We have agricultural, the failure of agriculture, and obviously waterborne diseases because of the floods. In Nigeria, the meningitis, back in the north, and the states have expanded. So usually before it was limited to the high north. Now it's actually coming all the way down where we have these epidemics. So it is changing. Asthma and allergies have increased, as I said. Malaria has become more of a problem as well now with the climate changes. Cardiovascular disease, heart attacks are more of a problem as well, increasing. And cancers. There are certain cancers related to the changing greenhouse gases, and also in terms of access to healthcare, because when there are floods, it's difficult to actually get to healthcare. You have to actually get to the places where you need to get to. As I said, malnutrition has increased in Nigeria and will continue to increase, largely due to crop failure. I would just want to, this is a study that was done actually in the UK. It's an international study, and Nigeria was included, where they actually interviewed some healthcare workers as to find out the impact they had on healthcare. It was actually related to children. What they found out is that many of them said how the air quality was cause for changing. It was a reason for the change in presentations. Heat waves was another one. Vector-borne diseases, household air pollution, these are the top ones. And they also found that access, many of them, about 50% of them said that access to healthcare had been impacted by climate. And also they found that the changing patterns, many of them said that infectious diseases was a big problem, diarrheal diseases, and others said that pollution was a major problem as well. When you talk about policy documents, many of them didn't know very much about policy documents. 43% knew about the WHO policy documents, 25% the IPPC, and 61% when it came to maybe country documents as well. So, just to summarize, the current crisis in healthcare crisis, as I said, it's an insidious, it's creeping up on us. There's rising global temperatures, shifting weather patterns, and increasing extreme events. It's heat waves, the floods, the droughts, there's emerging spread of infectious diseases. I mean, the COVID affected every level, particularly the upper class are affected at the end of the day. What next will come? So I think it's important we set up structures to actually mitigate some of these things. We have time. It's important that we actually begin to work on this. What are the challenges? We have a fragmented healthcare system. Data is a big problem because we have data that we can forecast these events. There's limited investment when it comes to crime resilient infrastructure, and obviously gaps in workforce capacity. So for the government, we need to integrate crime resilience into all our national planning. We need to protect vulnerable groups at risk at the borders. Our economy at the moment, the economic situation at the moment is not the best, but we need to then begin to use climate to actually see how we can actually generate funds to help. And we need to build adaptive, sustainable, and equitable health systems. These are just general recommendations. We need to be on board conducting national health, climate health risk assessments, and the NCDC should be able to do that. National population commissions should be doing research as well, and higher institutions should be doing this data collection, so we know the impact that climate is actually having on our system. I think healthcare financing is a big issue. We need to actually build countries good finance for these climate resilient systems. I think we also need to have ways of collecting data as well, and mobilize sustainable finance, as I said. We need to train health workers, train the public, we need to partner with relevant groups. As you know, US aid is out of the box. And I think aid is going to become more of a problem because once US aid is out, the others that will follow. Mitigation is the key, adaptation is the key as well. Like the black suit, you have to clear it up. When it comes to Port Harcourt, it has to be cleared up. And we have to provide measures to reduce the harm of climate change. Scenario decentralization. I think we need to actually have empowered the community. Nice scenario in regenerative agriculture and the planting. That can be driven by small scale farming. And we can get carbon credits, which can actually finance healthcare, education, and community level. This is something that should be thought of. Also, maternal and childhood services will be affected in terms of access if crime is a problem in terms of flooding. There's 7 million births annually in Nigeria, 6% are teen practitioner birth attendants. Nigeria is the third highest maternal mortality globally and second highest newborn mortality. So I think it's an important time for us to restructure our healthcare system. Perhaps we should be upskilling the traditional birth attendants. Mothers want to go there, farms want to go there. Can we restructure things to help mitigate some of the climate issues? We're in a new era. We have the territory, the labor, mechanical energy, the hyper digital. We're now in the regenerative era. Nigeria should not be left behind. The West is moving. They're capturing the regenerative era when it comes to climate. There's a $150 trillion opportunity. We have a young generation. We need to begin to point them in the area of climate technology. It's extremely important. Yes, we have oil, but things are moving away. It will be slow, but we need to do things both at the same time. Yes, as I said, this slide tells us that we are low emitters of carbon and greenhouse gases. The red parts are the West. Now, what are other countries doing in terms of renewables? We need to push it. UAE. Arab Emirates renewables along.
I think we're experiencing some.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
We can hear you now. We lost you.
Yeah, we can hear you now. We lost you for 2 seconds.
Okay, all right. I'll be back. Okay.
We're hearing you now, so you can go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay. Lessons from China. China's done it, and published in the 1900s. They joined in 1970 back into the global economy, and 2023 they're leading when it comes to EV vehicles. You've seen the trade wars between China and US. China is solid. So we start having plans. We have the sun. We have a young generation. A young generation. We need to invest in them. Get them into the climate technology, into the green technology. And let us invest in the best. So solutions, we can lead programs in the regenerative era. Innovation, advocacy, surveillance. The hard truth about climate is a major crisis of unprecedented magnitude. Disproportionately impacts the disadvantaged communities. The islands of the world, they're suffering because they're flooding. They are being submerged. They're worried. every country has agreed in principle to the act, the whole climate affair. Greenhouse gases continue to rise. Our plans must be ambitious. I think Nigeria started, but it's about implementation. The policy is right, but implementation is important. People's ideas can actually move the country forward. So climate change, do we choose to be unhealthy or healthy? Say COVID suddenly came on suddenly. Climate is insidious climate killer. Thank you. And this is just my map of the eco actors. This is a map of the spread of people participated in the virtual. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dayo. Thank you for this beautiful presentation, insightful, and I'm sure that everyone has gotten something from this presentation. So there are a couple of questions which we'll ask you to answer from the audience and from myself, I guess. So number one question will be, knowing that the activities of the fossil fuel industry impact on health or the general living organism, what exactly can the health sector put in place to ensure that the health of humans particularly is monitored and enhanced and also protected?
I think it's very important. Obviously, there has to be data collection on particular illnesses. I think it's important that if you look at Port Harcourt, that black soup was there, and it's still there. What is the impact? Are people studying is there data coming out of it to tell us the impact of this? And the need for it to be cleared up. I think data is very important. I think also, as I said, fossil fuel is very important to Nigeria when it comes to the economy. But we need to diversify and push the renewable energies. We've got the young population, the brains. We've got the solar, we've got the wind. Let's invest. Because we don't want to be left behind holding on to our oil, but the world is moving forward. If you think of the present, 20 years down and 30 years down, it's going to be less oil, it's going to be less of a commodity. So we need to invest for the future. The UAE is doing it. Saudi is doing it. We're all producing countries. We should not be left behind. In terms of diseases, we need to monitor and mitigate.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dayo. That's good. Another question, how does, because you said that there needs to be innovation, diversifying, into alternative or other type of, electricity generation or energy generation. So how does a company in the global south attract, financing to accelerate energy transition?
Okay. I think it should matter. There is a lot of money around. It's just being able to connect. Like when it comes to carbon credits, for instance, people plant trees. People are getting carbon credits for planting trees. It's being connected to the right sources. There's something called Vector, where there are others in Switzerland who are actually supplying this credit. So the different innovative ways in which you can actually get finance. We've got all the sun, the foreign investors that would actually be willing to work with people when it comes to setting up solar, generative solar within Africa.
Thank you. Okay, a third question. So, in terms of environmental justice, uh, I'm sure, and I believe that the audiences are, as well are sure that uh, the people in power, the people in policy, they all know the impacts of the fossil fuel industry. They all know the risk associated to this. So, how can environmental justice be addressed?
When I said something, I mentioned something you might talk about, which I thought was very invasive. Agriculture is a small scale farming. The majority of women are in small scale farming in the country. Personally, I believe that that is a way in which environmental justice can actually get out. If we have small scale farming and regenerative agriculture, so if regenerative small scale farming, new ways of actually growing our crops. If the fertilizers that they actually spoil the soil, it's actually new ways, biochar and all this. If people are able to produce their crops and at the same time get carbon credits, those carbon credits will actually help finance education, health, health insurance, and also sustain the community. So for me, it's about actually in a way being decentralizing some of this stuff, people being in control of their own lives. I think that's the key. And climate might actually help shift the center and empower. It's not going to be, personally, I believe that the people in power in government, it's all set for them. But I think we need to empower the communities to take control of their own lives. And if they can actually access their own funds to provide schools and health, then it's much easier.
Thank you.
So I'm all about solutions.
Yeah.
Solutions to it. It's all about solutions as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hot question. Do you think carbon taxing is something that should be promoted as to ensure that people are responsible and accountable, and ensuring that that kind of do you think it will minimize or the use of the fossil fuel, or will that encourage or kind of put some, should I use the word caution, in the fossil fuel industry?
I don't think I'll put any caution. I think it might actually help to actually, as carbon taxing might actually help drive people buy income taxes, the whole carbon market where you can actually buy carbon. So if you are in short, if someone is if somebody is actually what would I say, if you're sequestering carbon out and you are someone else is producing lots of carbon, the person who's producing lots of carbon can buy the sequestered carbon. They can actually what do you say? They buy carbon, and so it could help initially, but I think at the end of the day, the fossil fuel industry is very, very powerful, and it is very lucrative. So they're not going to let go. It's a big fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big fight.
Okay. Final question. Question, and I think more like a comment. This is from me. So the health sector, I will think that the health sector should play some form of leading role in ensuring the health of nations, or global health, such that, because the understanding is that in every human we have a system that is in place. that is called homeostasis, and we're made up of genes, that use genes that are responsible for various physiological functions. So, for instance, we as a scientist, as someone who's a cancer researcher, I have the understanding that we have genes that are responsible for uh, should I say xenobiotics metabolism. So the humans respond to their environment through those genes. The genes are impacted by the environment, both external environment and the internal environment. So, shouldn't the health sector put some system in place to ensure that individuals are aware of their status, of their genetic status, how they are responding to the environment in various regions?
But it doesn't matter. I mean, we're still very much in the research stage. I say the genome happened how many years ago. So we're still doing a lot of research at the end of the day, and it's still not where it should be. It's futuristic. And a time will come, we talk about personal medicine, personal health care. A time will come when people will present their genetic imprints and they'll be able to map treatments directly. So where cancers at the moment, which have people have cancer, it's a general thing. It's a cocktail that is applied to everybody who has probably breast cancer, stage 4, maybe adenocarcinoma. A time will come when a cocktail will be specially prepared for you to actually attack the cancer. We're not yet there.
Thank you so much.
Environment does play a role in terms of modifying cancers or actually modifying cells. But the time that we've not got to that stage, we're getting there. There are a lot of biologicals that are coming out that are having better outcomes when it comes to cancers, but we're not quite there. There's a lot of research going on, and there's some clinical trials who are getting amazing results, but it's not mainstream.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause with our icons to say thank you to Dr. Dayo Ajayi for the wonderful presentation and giving us great insight and understanding. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll be going into the panel discussion, but at the beginning of the panel discussion, we have a short presentation from what Anna. I will be introducing Anna Grichting Solder. So she's going to lead the discussion with a short presentation uh, regarding the theme, which is risk assessment and management in fossil fuel industry. Um, Anna is she's a wonderful speaker that I'm going to let you know it's not a secret. She's a musician as well. So she has the music aspect and I think she's been working on music, the impact of music on climate and how that can help us in the climate crisis. We're welcoming Anna to speak, but I will allow the sorry, I need to look for yeah. I'll call on the moderator. She will introduce Anna, the panel moderator. She will introduce Anna, you know, to start the presentation for the discussion. But just a brief thing about Anna. Anna is also the president for the alumni network for Harvard Women. She is a regenerative architect and urbanist. urbanist. So please join me in welcoming Anna. She's a very experienced also in thermal energy, thermodynamic energy. She's been a co-founder of various organizations as well. So please welcome Anna as I welcome Dr. Izu Egeruoh-Adindu. Dr. Adindu is an associate professor with Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. So please welcome the panel moderator as we will welcome Anna as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bene.
Yes, you're welcome.
Ekine-Afolabi. It's good to be here. Good morning or good day, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. And as we celebrate the Earth Day today, I just hope we also realize that we have just one Earth and we have to save it. So I've been asked to introduce Anna Grichting. And I know the Dr. Ekine-Afolabi has introduced her already, but just to restate that I'm excited to know that she's a musician, and I'm sure you too, you are excited. And of course, to listen to her and also hear her side on what she will be walking us down through this day. And of course, to know if she can share insights on how her music will assist or help us this climate crisis. Anna, you're welcome, and you have the virtual mic.
Yes. Can you share your slide, Anna?
Yes, I'm just sharing my screen here. I hope you'll let me know when you can see it.
Yes, we can.
I'm trying to get rid of this. Okay, so here you have my screen. You can hear me as well?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for this invitation. It's really a delight to be here on this Earth Day. Thank you very much for organizing this. So I will make just a few, I just wanted to present a few slides. As I explained, I wasn't going to make a full presentation, but it's just to open up a few items of food for thought for the discussion. And as you requested that I also talk about my music, I will, maybe at the end of the presentation, I will talk about that. I hadn't planned, but I'm very happy to speak a bit more about the link between my music and the environment. So the one thing I wanted to maybe start with, as you said, you know, we're on this this beautiful planet Earth, and of course, one of the emerging questions around climate change, which is the work of Johannes Rockström and his colleagues, is this concept of planetary boundaries. I have worked actually in the past, my PhD at Harvard was on borders. So I worked a lot on, you know, different types of borders and boundaries. So I'm a little bit of a sort of border expert. So obviously this question of the planetary boundaries is very, very important. Because it's really linked to climate change, and it's also really linked to our survival, because we often say we need to save our planet Earth, but in fact, we do realize that the planet will continue, you know, for a long time. Even without us. So in fact, it's really also about saving ourselves. So here, these are just some of the diagrams. These are, as I said, I'm only going to really come up, you know, show a few slides and a few concepts. But it's just this idea of all the different planetary boundaries that you can see here. And of course, the biosphere, the CO2, atmospheric aerosol loading, ocean acidification, biochemical flows, fresh water, the land use systems change. And, you know, one of the things that you did ask me, Dr. Bene, to talk about was biodiversity. So I will talk about the loss of biodiversity. That's, you know, one of the boundaries is how much biodiversity we're losing. But also here, this is just, as I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail. It would take, of course, too much time, but there's a lot of good talks by Johannes Röckström, etc. But I think what's important is to see that we're really at a moment now where, that the Earth's trajectory with our planetary boundaries is that we could go towards the hothouse Earth or towards a stabilization. But it does mean that this stabilization of the Earth, where, we will be able to continue living on it, really does mean a lot of transformations in the way we live on the Earth and we live with the Earth. So as this webinar is about risk, I'm actually, not an expert in fossil fuels or in the calculation of risk. Obviously, in a lot of talks I've been to looking at, nature-based solutions, etc., there's always a lot of questions, of course, about risk, and also when we talk about finance and de-risking, etc. And it's obviously not a field that I'm very familiar with. But the question probably I would say is, I'm interested in saying, looking at the risk, and there's been a lot of data calculation. Is the risk of inaction? What is the risk? The biggest risk is of not taking action for climate change and for the climate. And where will that bring us? And we saw, obviously, in the diagram, earlier, where planet Earth can go according to how we address these risks. So something I've been now working on in urbanism and regenerative urbanism, but also in my music, is the blue and the blue futures. So why I've been working on this? Well, one of the reasons is because obviously we know our planet is blue, and everyone everywhere is inextricably connected to and utterly dependent upon the existence of the sea. So this is a wonderful woman, Sylvia Earle, who I admire a lot, who has been really defending our planet and our Earth. So it's really coming to this interconnection that we have, but also this awareness of this blue planet, because we often tend to talk about the green. And also this knowing that our environmental health and survival, the systems of food production and the energy, transportation, temperature regulation, oxygen production, carbon sequestration, and more are dependent on the Earth's waters. So from green to blue, this is something I presented at the Gulf Research Centre in Cambridge, and I've been working on it for 10 years because I lived in the Gulf countries. And what was interesting in me from the green to blue is going from this anthropocentric and passive, where we're becoming carbon neutral, to a more active symbiotic, where it's about people and the planet, and also where we're not just becoming carbon neutral, but we are actually giving back more to the Earth. So really this idea of regeneration that we also heard in the previous presentation. So the blue is really about going beyond the green. So I also want to just situate my work, because I have a PhD in urbanism. And so my work is really situated in what I call landscape urbanism, because landscape urbanism really begins with the environment and the site and the ecological systems before we start to do any sort of planning on any sort of any part of Earth. So this can be from a small house to a huge energy plant, for example, but any kind of planning really needs to start with the Earth and the ecosystem. So this is just a quick diagram. As you can see, biodiversity is a very, very important part of landscape urbanism, as is water management and a productive landscape for humans, but this also includes urban agriculture. So now regenerative urbanism is not just creating sustainable cities, but regenerative cities that are not just resource efficient and low carbon emitting, but that they positively enhance rather than undermine the ecosystem services they receive from beyond their boundaries. So this is obviously, today we talk about circular systems, circular economies, etc. So this is really this idea of, regenerative circular metabolisms, and also going beyond the anthropocentric. That is the idea that we're at the top of this pyramid and dominating, to a more ecocentric and earth-centric approach, where we are part of the ecosystem, not dominating it. So now, I wanted to sort of really look at Africa. I'm not a specialist, but just to say, what is happening also in Africa with the fossil fuels and the maps. And we can see that it's on the front line of climate change, that has a lower resilience, but it also produces, emits a lot less CO2. As we can see, it's the least responsible for warming, but will have the worst impacts. So now I'm showing another map. Why am I showing this? This is a map of bioregions, because I also want to talk about biodiversity. So showing the different way we map and the different way we have boundaries. Today, we are talking about that if we really want to manage our Earth, that we have to find also new sort of territorial systems. And one of them is the bioregions, because it's also the communities. It's not just the animal and plant communities, but it's also the human communities. There's also the question of watersheds, etc. But we have to look more at nature's boundaries and community boundaries and animal community boundaries, plant boundaries, to actually effectively manage our Earth. So now I was looking also the source of power in the countries. So this is obviously how the countries use power, but obviously it's not just that, because we also have the fossil fuels that are exported. But to see that there is a huge potential, obviously a lot of hydropower being used, obviously the water, but that there is, we have a lot of oil and gas in all of these countries, still coal in certain regions. And this is more, what Africa produces and also exports. Here you see the petroleum, natural gas, etc., the crude oils. But then again, I started to look at these maps. This is a database of all the energies and the renewable types of energies: hydropower, solar, wind power, the different types of energy grids. And really, what's interesting to see here is, the evolving energy landscape and the huge potential that there is for solar energy and geothermal and other renewable energies. So I just wanted, these are just, as I mentioned before, just food for thought, looking at the networks, looking at the boundaries, etc. And this is off the coast of Africa, Sharm el-Sheikh, just coming back to this idea of the blue, the ocean, the biodiversity, these ecosystems, which absorb a huge amount of carbon. So these are really important carbon sinks, but they're also threatened from fossil fuel burning and from all, this is in the Red Sea, but, I was in the Gulf, but all of these areas where we have all this fossil fuel industry and all the pollutions. So it's a huge carbon sink, but it's also at risk. I'm just also making a very quick reference to Pope Francis, who, sadly passed away yesterday. But he wrote in 2015 the Laudate Si, and this is a sort of treaty about the environment. So this was really innovative from the Pope, saying, that we really have to also reconsider our relationship to the earth, and also our own habits and ways of acting, our consumerists. So it's not just, the sectors and the governments and the thing, but it's as much also our own behaviors. It's really looking at both of these, but this was very important. So here's symbiosis. Why am I looking at this? Because it's really going towards more of a balanced symbiosis with the earth, where we design in symbiosis with nature, where we integrate plant, animal, and human communities in respectful and balanced symbiosis that is agile and resilient. Because as we're seeing, and after COVID, we actually are beginning to see it emerge more and more sort of communities and resilient communities. We saw the problem of all the supply chains, that large systems are not always very resilient. So we're also looking at, small is beautiful, smaller systems, more resilient communities, more resilient systems, different scales of systems. So this new idea of symbiotic urbanism, as we mentioned before, this idea that now we'll be going from the Anthropocene, where we've really dominated nature, to Symbiocene, where we are really acting with nature. We're co-creating with animals. We're also reintroducing apex species. In Africa, you have a lot of apex species. You also have this reintroduction of white lions. In Switzerland, we're talking about this a lot with the wolves. It's a very big discussion. Of course, the wolves, they eat the lambs, etc. But we also know that they regenerate our ecosystem. So if we could find a balance with the wolves and the way we live, we would actually regenerate all our ecosystems. So we really have to start, living differently. This is in Switzerland, examples of water management systems that we have. So here we're looking also at cultural systems, water systems, and also this brings in biodiversity, because we also have the endangered lynx in the Valais, which is an endangered species and an apex species. So really looking at our landscapes, how they bring together all of these aspects. This is just a diagram. I don't want to go into that, but really the large-scale regeneration through apex species is really important. Nature positive design is something that we're looking at. We're no longer looking at just nature-based solution or nature neutral, carbon neutral, but really looking to give back more to our systems. And this of nature positive is really this, if we want to take the right track with the earth for this full recovery by 2050, it will be really interesting, really important that we, regenerate our systems with all the animal and plant populations. So nature positive, as I said, I don't want to go too much into these diagrams, but it's really the ecologies of different places, people-nature relationships, and also non-human needs. So very, very briefly, I will just touch upon this new framework and bluescapes I'm working on. And because I've tried to look at all the different emerging concepts that are emerging, to look at, how we go beyond what we've been doing so far, and to find new ways of acting for a regenerative planet. So just one of these is obviously the whole term of growth. I think that's one thing, whether it's in the fossil fuel industries, in any of our industries, and in our whole development of the earth, is the concept of growth. We've had, there's always been economic growth, GDP, et cetera, but today, can we still, think of growth in the same way when we consider the planetary boundaries? So normally we could say that we can't really, think of infinite growth when we now know we have these planetary boundaries. So this blue growth, or now we talk about degrowth, is this idea of aligning our growth with the planetary boundaries. And it's also an ecosystem-based blue growth, a regenerative based growth. And it's also linked to, justice. Obviously, we need to have a blue growth, but also a justice which is more inclusive, which brings, water, food, everything to all populations, the right to water, the right to environment, the right to a healthy environment. The previous speaker was talking about health, healthy air, etc. That this is really a human right. So how do we, move towards that? So soil is also very important. When we talk about biodiversity, sometimes we forget that there's a huge amount of biodiversity in our soils, and a lot of our soils have been depleted by intensive agriculture. So there's also new ways and more regenerative ways of growing food, which will also benefit our health, because we know that the health of the soil, the health of our gut, and the microbiome is also very, very much linked. So these biodiversity of soil and biodiversity of the gut biome is also important. I'll just touch on this because I worked on this a lot when I was working in the Gulf countries. But the idea that fossil fuels or energy, when we're thinking about systems, and this was for urban planning and design, of course, looking at master plans, how do we design for food, water, and energy? But this idea that we have to bring them into the nexus, that we have to have this nexus thinking where we're thinking of food, water, and energy together. And this is just an example with our students where we were redesigning the Corniche of Doha. really looking at all these regenerative practices and blue, these blue futures, as you can see, looking at the water, the energy, the waste, and the food growing. We were also looking at halophytes using saltwater plants. So instead of using a lot of energy, fossil fuels, to desalinate water and then to put it back into the Gulf, and resalinate the Gulf, is how we can actually use salt water to grow halophyte plants. So, looking at all these new sort of ways of evolving in our urban systems. As I mentioned, the saline agriculture. There's a Center for Saline Agriculture in Abu Dhabi. So I will finish then with some work we did with the turtle species in Qatar. This is a highly endangered species, and it's also an indicator species for the health of the ocean. So this importance, when we talk about biodiversity, these species can be really important because they're indicator species and they're critically endangered. And so I worked on this with the students. So the idea was we were raising awareness about their extinct, but we were also designing a master plan for the turtle beach so that the turtles could nest and continue to survive. Third, landscapes. Why is this important? This is a very important, this is a landscape architect who is actually currently having an exhibition in Geneva. But third, landscapes are these landscapes that we leave to nature. And you can see at the United Nations in Geneva, the lawn now is no longer a lawn where we put a lot of herbicides, which kill biodiversity. And then we take a lawnmower, which we use, fossil fuels with, to mow the lawn. But we actually leave a more natural prairie, and then we bring in the sheep to graze. So we see that, it's a really whole different practice of landscape, which is bringing more biodiversity and also using much less fossil fuels. We can see other examples in Geneva. And to end, I wanted to talk about the white lions as an apex species in Africa. And I actually met Linda Tucker in Switzerland and learned about this project. And I read her book, The Mystery of the White Lions. And so she was actually in the corporate world in America. She came to Africa. She was attacked by a lion and then saved by this lady shaman. And then she became she created the trust to save the white lions and buy up tracts of lands. And now with all the science, they've been looking at the aerial views and the data. And now that these lions have more and more land, you can actually see the whole ecosystem is being regenerated because these are now the apex species in this land and they're living with the other species. But there is a balance which is restoring the ecosystem. So this is also an apex species, or what we could call a flagship species. So, maybe looking also into these flagship species in the future for regeneration. This is just a map of this biosphere where the white lions area is, where this eco regeneration is taking place. So before I end, I would obviously wish everyone a happy Earth Day today. And maybe just say a few more words before I give over the floor to the moderator. And the discussion is, how did I link my music with also the blue urbanism? Well, what I'm doing now is in my musical projects. I just recently had a project in Oman called Desert Bridges with Swiss musicians from jazz and traditional music and Omani traditional musicians. And the theme was blue. And so we also composed music around blue. We composed the water song. We talk about apex species, about endangered species. So the idea is really to bring this theme into the music and also to use music as a transformative art in a way that, that through the music and through sharing the music, that we can also create a sort of a transformation in our own relationship to nature and to different species. So I will stop there and stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And that was actually a very beautiful presentation. And I guess everyone, just like me, have learned a lot, moving from the green to the blue. Quite interesting, and of course, very innovative too. I'm glad we all have been painting the earth green, but now we'll start painting it blue so that we can give back to the earth. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if we have, and thank you once again for also sharing your music and how it connects with the blue earth that you shared your insights with us. Right now, the floor is open for questions, and I guess and I hope we all will ask Anna a question because she has given out a lot. I don't think it's right for us not to ask her questions. Please, the floor is open. Okay, if there are no questions from the audience, maybe I'll ask about the saline agriculture.
Yes.
And I know quite a lot of people are more interested in organic food right now.
Yes. Yes.
People are so worried about the GMOs and their impact on health.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really heard much about the saline agriculture, and it's quite interesting to hear about it. And I want to know what are the likely impacts on our health, because, you know, the previous speaker, the keynote speaker, said a lot about the impact of climate change on health. And of course, that's the main reason why everyone is clamoring for organic, pure organic food, that is food coming from the soil. And if we are trying as much as possible to ensure that we preserve the life, the biodiversity, both in the soil and moving towards the saline agriculture, don't you think it may have negative impact on our health?
Thank you so much for your comments and also for your question. So it's very important. I did also work on, obviously, organic agriculture. When I was in Qatar, we actually created a permaculture food garden in the university, and we also created a composting heap because there was no composting. So one of the things I didn't mention, but when we talk about soil, is actually composting, which seems kind of basic, but actually it's so important because we're wasting so much organic matter, which we could actually use to create a fertile soil. When I came to Qatar, people said, this is a desert, nothing grows. Well, in fact, a lot can grow. And so, you know, just making the compost and creating the healthy soil is a beginning. So the next step was saying, what can we grow here? You know, because people are like, well, this is a desert, nothing grows. I worked with the Environmental Science Center, and there was a specialist there, a lady scientist, and she had been working with the plants in Qatar, all the plants that could grow. And obviously there's also the microclimate. Every time, you know, there's shade, some plants need shade, etc. So you have to work with the microclimate, which is what permaculture does, because you create high trees, lower trees, you know, you have a whole system of canopies and, you know, that permaculture does. So you're creating the right microclimate. You know, first you create the soil and you're also creating the right soil. So it's a whole process, and I think which can be done everywhere. So I think it's really important what you're saying. I mean, we saw what we wanted to show in Qatar, that it could be done in Qatar. And the students, you know, that anyone can do this. You can do this in your own home. And then for the students, it was that it would, you know, they could start to integrate this into their design projects. You know, as I said earlier, the important for me was that the landscape is the foundation of the project, because what we've been doing up until recently is landscape is always the icing on the cake. So you design a nice neighborhood or you design a nice city. And then, you know, when there's a bit more money and what you put some plants on it and you make it look nice, you know, the plants were sort of, you know, decorative. Whereas now really it should be the opposite, is really everything that is soil, water, everything is the infrastructure that's going to make this a healthy place. We're talking about health. So, yeah, so there's a lot to do. And I think through all of this awareness, because there's things that we can design and implement and do, you know, with policy and designs. And there's another thing that we can do just with communities and education, so there's always both sides. The communities can grow, that do their own organic farming, create compost, etc. Now to come on to the halophyte, because I will answer your question. The reason this was interesting, I found out also because we worked with the one NGO in Qatar, which was Friends of the Environment with Dr. Saif Al-Hajri. So we visited with our one important thing was bringing the students also into nature, so they get to know nature, get to know the plants. And so it was through him, he would show us these plants. He says, oh, this is a halophyte. And he said, and you can taste it. And because the older generations also knew about these plants, there's a lot that has been lost from with the evolution. And so, so that's how we became aware. And then doing more and more research, I started to become aware that, there was this Center for Saline Agriculture in the UAE. So they were actually doing real research, that we can grow, what crops could be grown with salt water, like quinoa, etc. So in fact, the water, normally this would be organic in the senses. You can do organic with saline. It's just, you've got to make sure the water's, obviously even with any organic farming, you want your water to be clear. So saline agriculture doesn't at all preclude the organic. The idea is that it's more healthy because we using less energy to desalinate water, with the whole energy cycle of desalination, and we're using directly. It also means that all the coastal communities, and actually I think 60-70% of our world communities live by the sea, so we could start to use more saline water. And it's also being used, another important thing when you're an architect and designer is landscape. And I visited in Oman some of the hotels. You can already see, you can actually, when you're using the landscape, growing different plants, there's a lot of plants, decorative plants, etc., that can be grown using the salt water. So it just means that you have, a sort of saltwater circuit, and that you use that, to water your landscaping plant. And now there's another interesting field where we also did research with our students, which comes into sort of the saline, not fully, but it goes into also micronutritions and etc. and health, which is the algae, because there's a whole expansive area of new research, which is with algae and microalgae, whether it's with health, how do you say, healthcare, but it's also in superfoods. So the algae is obviously also can be linked, there's saltwater and freshwater algae, etc. But there's a whole new emerging field also, which can really actually benefit, which could be very beneficial to our health. So anyway, I hope I wasn't too long, and I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I hope I answered it in some way. Yes.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. Please, we have a hand up, and is from Dr. Bene. The floor is open for you.
Yeah, I wanted to, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask, with your expertise, do you think, although you've just mentioned, the importance of the algae, so do you think that in trying to solve the problem of the earth without regarding climate crisis, is it possible that there are solutions in under the water, in the ocean and outside space? Is it possible that humans might find solution out of space and in the water?
So you mean as a place of residence? Is that what you're saying?
As a place of residence.
Yes, you mean so that that we don't need the earth, or we could, that we'll, even if the earth becomes, like we said, the hothouse, we would find. Well, I'm an eternal optimist, so I think we will always find solutions. Afterwards, it depends, like, where we want to live and how we want to live, because it's true. We see all sorts of generations of the generative futures that are shown. So of course we could live underwater, but we wouldn't be able to, we're not fish yet, or unless we become dolphins. So it means, do we want to live, in a bubble under the sea, or do we, here we can, we breathe the fresh air. So I think it really depends on, how we want to live. And I think, that's also the motivation of saying, well, we all will have to change, the way we live and the way we consume. I mean, I'm convinced of that, and I'm also doing it because, I don't think we can keep going with the growth and the consumption and the bigger, and we always want bigger and better and etc. I don't think that's really compatible with what we're looking at, which is a real regenerative and integrated future with all of species and moving forward. So I think it definitely means that we have to modify our behavior. Now, as you said, if we don't modify our behavior, will there be other habitats? And of course, I can't look into the future. None of us can. So it's very hard to, to think of that. But then it's also, what kind of life do we want, and what do we appreciate? I mean, I love walking barefoot in the grass, or in the sand or whatever, So these are all things that, we have to see when we're looking at, what other futures, we might be able to see. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bene. I don't know if we have more questions. Please indicate by raising your hands. Okay. If we don't have more questions, I want to use the opportunity to appreciate Anna. Please, can we virtually appreciate her? Of course, let's appreciate her for this beautiful presentation.
Thank you so much.
All learned a lot. Thank you so much, Anna. We are very grateful to you.
Thank you, Dr. Izu Egeruoh-Adindu. Thank you, Dr. Bene. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So move to our first responder for today, to the panel question on the theme. And permit me to welcome Patricia Simeon-Hart. I would like to introduce Patricia Simeon-Hart, who is a co-founder, Women in Energy Nigeria. She is a CEO, AfriTrack, INDP non-executive director, I beg your pardon, Ardell Holdings PLC. Patricia, please, you're welcome, and you have the virtual mic. You can as well share your slides if you have one.
Let me come in. Patricia is not feeling well. She messaged me a few minutes ago that she won't be able to make it. She has cold and she's recovering. So we'll just, introduce.
We wish a quick recovery while we move to the second responder for today. And we have Dr. Eugene Itua, represented by Emmanuel Chidebere. I hope Emmanuel Chidebere is online with us. And permit me to introduce Dr. Eugene Itua, who is an accomplished sustainability expert with extensive experience spanning over 25 years. Eugene has a PhD in environmental management. Eugene has a PhD in environmental management and has been demonstrating expertise and commitment to sustainable development. He's also the CEO of Natural Eco Capital. His work has had a significant impact across various sectors of the economy, often in support of or collaboration with development partners such as the AFDB, World Bank, IFC, and UN. Dr. Itua's contributions demonstrate his unwavering commitment to sustainable development, nature positive growth, and climate resilience. Please make welcome the Dr. Eugene, represented by Emmanuel Chidebere. Emmanuel Chidebere, please, you have the floor, you have the virtual mic, and you can also share your slides if you have one.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Izu.
Thank
As
you.
mentioned, I'm Emmanuel Chidebere. Unfortunately, I don't have a slide, but I'll be speaking to some content. Sorry, I need to be sure how long do I have? It's
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Great. So typically, I'll just run through the green renewable energy and climate in Nigeria, which is a subject that have been shared with me. If we look at the theme for this year's World Earth Day, we'll see clearly that there is a strong note on power. That means our power, our planet. It means if we must survive on this planet, we need to consider how we generate power. And we need to consider this in line with the planet. So this clearly means a sustainable way of generating our power, whether for economic development or any other form of development. So this critically takes us to the key area that was shared with me to talk about. That's the green renewable energy and climate in Nigeria. Well, Nigeria is not so much lagging when it comes to policies and regulations around green growth. We have for a long time been keen into different conventions and different forms of agreements, both whether subnational, national, or also in the global scale. So when it comes to tackling the issue of power using renewable energy, Nigeria has over the years tried clearly to unlock the need for whether low carbon growth or net zero growth like we have now, and using that also to ensure the creation of what we call green jobs. So we have a national renewable energy and energy efficiency policy that aims to save up to 20% of our energy, and also a growth of 50% by 2030. So generally, the need for renewable energy and energy efficiency, is key to what Nigeria is driving at. So when it comes to energy transition, personally, I'm a school of thought that believe in not just discarding the fossil fuel. I will explain myself. There is the drive for going green, and I agree clearly as an environmentalist that this is important. But I have a school of thought within myself that there is need for us to use the just transition model in a way that is environmentally, socially, and prosperity-wise for developing countries. There are so many intricacies when it comes to leaving the fossil fuel. The economic implication it will be on developing countries. And now we're having paucity when it comes to funding from international community. So I'm of the opinion that it is important that we embrace just transition model in a way that developing countries can environmentally, socially, and prosperity-wise transit to green energy. And with this, we can look clearly at this fossil fuel and see how to do it in a clean manner. For instance, the aviation industry is talking about sustainable aviation fuel. This comes from some of them are biofuels, and they are used to fuel all aircraft, and they are cleaner. However, at the moment, they are more expensive than traditional fuel. So can we begin to look at an area where we can start to say, let's transit justly by ensuring that our fossil fuel is cleaner? Can we start building research and development in this area so that we won't just say stay off and, in quotes, there is no support for these developing countries? So that's my school of thought, that it's important we transit justly and use what we have to benefit ourselves, especially doing it environmentally, making sure it's socially engaging, people are still engaged, and we get the prosperity, or what we call profits, that can still sustain the economy. My time is almost up. Let me just talk to us a little bit, or share with us some strategic national green energy guidelines Nigeria has.
Extra 3 minutes. You have extra 3 minutes to go on.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So we have these guidelines. That's to tell, or like I started from my preamble, that Nigeria we have taken giant steps. So we have the National Policy for Renewable Electricity. We have the Renewable Energy Master Plan. We have the National Renewable Energy Action Plan. We also have the Energy Transition Plan, the ECHE, a very potent documentation that was developed in 2021. Then we have the long-term low emission development strategy. Natural Echo played a very key role in developing these, and it has scaled to an extent of being recognized internationally. It has been submitted to United Nations UNFCCC for adequate documentation to tell our guidelines towards ensuring renewable energy. So let me just try to wrap up with what was done recently. That's just last year, when the subnationals were put into a kind of competitions to see how ready they are relating to climate change, because we're talking about renewable energy and climate change here. So the nations were ranked, and that's the 36 nations, and Lagos State came top, followed by Ebonyi State, and then Borno State and Ekine jointly occupying the 4th place. So what this has done as climate governance is to ensure that each state has a climate institution and governor that is clear. They also have climate policy and action plan. They also have climate project implementations, and ensuring that their climate budget and finance are addressed in such a way that it puts climate into its plan. And finally, they were able to ensure that they see how visible each of the states are when it comes to climate change. So Lagos State being ranked top means that other states can clearly follow and ensure that they make themselves climate ready, whether towards energy generation and also use. So I'll conclude by saying that Nigeria has the potential opportunities actually for renewable energy and development, and also climate change mitigation. So it's important for us that transiting to low carbon economy or moving towards net zero, we can unlock these sustainable economic growth by creating what we refer to as green jobs, and also achieving global climate and sustainable development objectives. Thank you very much for the time given to me. Back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Chidebere, for that well-delivered presentation, though without your slides, but short and straight to the point. And yeah, we appreciate you for that. And of course, we all know that even the villa is moving towards renewable energy soon. So it shows the efforts Nigeria has put in place. Yes, exactly. If the villa is moving towards going off grid and embracing alternative energy sources and probably green energy, we can understand the effort Nigeria has put in place so far. I don't know if we have questions, comments, observations, or we have something to add. Please, you can actually indicate by raising up your hands before we go to the 4th responder. Okay, we can see Dr. Anna's hand. The floor is yours, ma'am. The virtual mic is yours.
Yes. Oh, thank you very much for this presentation. I really learned a lot. So I would have one question. Is you were talking about biofuels and that we're starting to replace some fossil fuels with biofuels. And I'm just wondering what types of biofuels, and also the problem that with certain biofuels, maybe they also take land from other land uses or other crops. So just to talk about that this transition. And also then to sort of ask about Nigeria is, are you also sort of looking and discussing with your neighbors, on any kind of projects, for example, for renewable energies? Is it also discussed at not just a national level, but at a regional level, the transition to renewables?
Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Oh, clearly. Thank you very much. Yeah, the SAF, or what is called the Sustainable Aviation Fuel, it's been seen as an alternative fuel that can actually reduce greenhouse emission for when it comes to air travels. We all agree that one of the cleanest, if not the cleanest year we ever had was 2020, when COVID struck in 2019 and mobility by air was hugely reduced. Scientists made us know that there are very clear form of, if I can use the word, tidiness up there in the sky, because emission was really low due to low air travels. So so typically, it's just trying to look for other ways of ensuring that mobility can still be on while ensuring we protect our environment. So it comes with its benefits, and I also resonate with you when it comes to a type of aviation fuel, that's a sustainable aviation fuel that looks at biofuels, clearly made out from organic matter like plant waste or algae. It has a way of, so there's so many interlocked discussions when it comes to finding solutions, because when you go natural, the natural conservative groups will come up with their own points. If you go off natural, another group will come up. But all we just need to do is to harness these different solutions and see how sustainable they can be. When it comes to projects that's renewable projects, clearly, yeah, it's not just national projects. We have projects that are regional in nature also. We are open. The nation is open, whether through the government or through private sectors like ours, clearly open to activities that can ensure we have green in our energy while we're sourcing for our energy. For instance, we assisted in the small and medium scale scaling up of businesses by the AFDB, and this also look closely at green areas, green jobs, and how this thing can be. It actually took part. I mean, we had like 8 pilot countries in Africa to kick off the program, and it's not just a national pursuit. It's both regional and also Africa-wide. So it's open for collaboration, even in the nearest future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidebere. And I hope you're able to answer her question. And I would also like to add that Nigeria is the headquarters of the ECOWAS region. And yes, Nigeria has also championed quite a lot of climate strategies and all that at the regional level. So yes, it is not just about national projects, but at the regional project, at the regional level. I saw another hand up, and I would like to, Mazi Obina. After Mazi Obina, we'll take Obina Ali Anoliefo. Please, in that order, Mazi Obina, you have the virtual mic. Thank you.
Sorry, I will have to let my elder, Professor Anoliefo, to go for, because his hands was first up. I just raised my hand up now.
Oh, sorry, Professor Anoliefo, I'm so sorry about that. Please, you have the virtual mic. I called the one I saw first. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks to my patron, Mazi Obina Agomo is the patron of my society, and thanks for that great respect. I was enchanted when I heard Emmanuel talk about not being too hasty about green energy. That excited me a lot, because I think he's gearing into international environmental justice. So I would really like Emmanuel to speak more on this matter, because of the North-South dichotomy. If we have to talk about equity, we must come with clean hands. So, please, Emmanuel, can you speak more on that? Your side talk. It wasn't your main talk, but that side talk is very important. How would the world carry Africa along if we must really go green in terms of international equity? Thank you very much, my brother. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you,
Great.
Prof. Let's take the second person so that he can respond to both.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I thank all the speakers so far and the contributors. Thank you. Yes, I will be, drawing my strength from the point of an industrial revolutionist, which I am. Yes, I am very concerned about this issue of climate change, green energy, net zero. And I'm wondering, how possible is it to achieve green energy without industrialization? I mean, how do you industrialize with what you call, green energy? As a matter of fact, I do know that the United States has about 96% of its renewable energy resource from hydropower. Yes, Africa has a lot of water. So if we are talking of green energy, net zero, we should be looking at hydro. And the fact is that the highest energy efficient among all the energy resources we have in this world is hydropower. It is 96%. But here is my worry. We keep pushing solar energy, wind energy to Africa. And solar energy is the least efficient of all the renewable energy resource, is the least. In fact, in the entire energy resource ladder, it is the least. It is between 5% and 25% energy efficiency. Next one to it is the wind energy, which is about 35 to 45%. And then the rest you have, like the fossil fuel energy, and then you have geothermal and all that. The top on the list is the hydropower, which is 96%, between 90 and 96% efficiency. I don't see the globalists pushing hydro, funding hydro in Africa. We don't see that. What we see is them pushing solar energy to Africa, wind energy to Africa. But they don't have that in the West. They don't rely on that. You can't rely on that for industrialization of any country. So, how do we as Africans achieve net zero if we are told to shut down our coal plants? Meanwhile, 224 coal-fired power plants are still up and running in the United States. I am worried. Over 200 coal-fired power plants are still up and running in Europe. Over 1,000 coal-fired plants are still up and running in China. Yet it is Africa, they keep talking, pushing renewable energy, green energy, so that at the end of the day, we'll remain at the lowest ladder of the economy. Because if you don't industrialize, how do you grow your GDP to that size that is commensurate with your population? We are 1.4 billion people. We cannot rely on renewable energy resource if it's not hydro. We can't rely on solar, we can't rely on wind. So my point is, how do we go net zero and at the same time be fully industrialized? Is that possible? So Trump was right. Trump was right that, look, they have to drill and drill more. The fossil fuels must come back. And then I heard my brother talk about biofuel. Biofuel, yes, what is it called? It's also fossil fuel. So we must look at this thing holistically and understand that Africa is probably being used to, to keep Africa at that level of that poverty level that, they say we are. So my suggestion would be energy mix. Energy mix. We must make use of our coal. Africa is the least contributor of this carbon emission, about 3% or so, right? So we are the least contributor. Yet it is Africa that they are saying that we must go green, and then nobody's talking about how do you power a plant with solar. You can't power a factory with solar. You can't, no place in the world. You can't even power a factory of, for example, a megawatt, 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts. And when they tell you, for you to understand how this thing works, when they tell you a solar farm is 2 megawatts, please do maximum of 25% of that. Then you know the actual efficiency that you are getting from that, input capacity. So we must get these things clear. So we cannot risk going into, solar green unless it's hydro. So we must be preaching. If we are talking green energy, let's be specific. Let's go hydro. We have all the water. Let's go hydro. It is 96% efficiency. With hydro, you can go industrialized. We can be industrialized. So let nobody come to tell us go green. Let us why they have not shut down their own plants. Europe have not shut down the plants. China have not shut down their plants. In fact, they are even building more in the US. They added one the other time. So what are we talking about? So we must face it the way it is. Sorry that I spoke this way. Thank you so much. Thank you. So how do we go green without, and at the same time become fully industrialized? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obina. And Ajayi-Obe, you can take the 2 questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Izu. Prof, I'm highly honored by your comments. Thank you very much, sir. And I resonate clearly with your last quote that anyone that comes to court, I hope I got that right, must come with clean hands because of equity, which is very true because of this north-south dichotomy we keep having around the discussion of going green or not going green. And like I mentioned, it's clearly my small scientific mind saying there is need for us to do it, if I can use the phrase, our own way, and not necessarily being coerced into doing it the way the Europeans want us to do it. Yes, I clearly understand the huge environmental impact of what have been termed dirty fuel before now. And we've had different industrial revolutions over the years, even energy revolution aside from industrial revolution. And I will just say, and I hope this answers clearly your question, sir, that there is need for us to sit. I mean, when I say us now, I mean Africa and other developing world, to sit down and really draw up a roadmap that is not just going against what the West is saying, but letting them understand there is need for us to also develop based on our own paths, while we are very much committed to ensuring reduction of especially the greenhouse gases that even scientists have told us has affected the global system. And we have the warmth and the extreme heat we keep having this April, surprisingly, and we're still having heat to this extent. The rains are not there yet. So it's important for everyone to sit down and forget about political wheels and politics, and please note that we're discussing about humans, not just humans, even plants and animals needs to survive. So everybody needs to sheath their sword of interest and come together, and let's have these communal efforts to ensure that as we drive to get energy, we also ensure that we don't do it to the detriment of ourselves and the unborn generations, which is one of the key concepts of sustainable development. I hope I've been able to touch your question, sir. Sir, I didn't get your name clearly, but I can see, I hope I'm right, Mazi, but I can't get the remaining name.
Mazobina.
Mazobina. You may not, sir. Okay. I'm very excited. I'm very excited with your description, sir, about renewable energy and how even the solar we are agitating for, which to me, in my own school of thought, is the lowest hanging fruit for us to run with. Hydro is high up there. We have the inland waters. We also have the waters around us that we can tap into. But I can just, in responding to a part of your question, I'll look at the industrial part later. A part of your question that we could still run with solar, especially taking it domestically as low-hanging fruits to power homes or power some SMEs, that are key to economic growth. And they're also very key to industrial development. So if we could efficiently use this for our households and also the SME that drives the economy, then I think with people like you, sir, we could now start to think clearly on how to make sure that this goes into industrialization. Like you said, a huge amount of energy is needed for industrialization. And we cannot but fold our hands and say, let's go to fossil fuel, my school of thought, actually. Because I said that while I was making my presentation, that we should be allowed. Will I say allowed now? Nobody is actually coercing us in my own thoughts. We should transit justly as it favors us and also favors environment, the society, and the profits we are looking for towards economy. So if we want to go really deep industrialized, we can start from the low-hanging fruit of the solar aspect and have this roadmap, like our energy transition plan now, have a roadmap that takes us, whether it's 2060 or 2080 or whichever year ahead of us, that says, at this point, this is where we want to get to. And I believe that can, in the context of industrialization, move us towards that. Net zero was mentioned by our president in 2021 in Glasgow when he said Nigeria will net zero by 2060. Well, it's a statement of commitment. I clearly resonate with him. But of course, we can come home and chat our parts and see how we can move towards net zero while also transiting justly. You cited examples of over 200 coal plants in the US, over 1,000 in China, and there is another course saying we should go green. So it's as if there is need for international politics balance, okay, to understand clearly which parts they want the world to go. And sir, you clearly gave the solution, which is energy mix, and which is also a synonyms of what I'm trying to say, just transition. Let's mix them, let's bring them together. Start with solar, start with whatever is close to us, but have a clear roadmap that takes us to where we want to get to. And I think by this, even the industrialization we are looking out for, we can, at the end of the day, get into it. That's my response for now. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you, Mazobina. Back to the moderator, please.
Thank you so much, Chidebere. It's very clear why you were selected to represent Dr. Eugene, and really appreciate your time and your very beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. So I don't know if you have more questions for Chidebere, and if we don't have, on that note, permit me to call upon the fourth responder. And after that, I will hand over to the host because I'll be taking my leave for another meeting. So for the fourth responder, Permit me to welcome Dr. Daniel Smile George. I hope I got your name correctly. And if I did not, I'm sorry about it.
I'm sorry to interject, please.
Okay.
Is it possible I be excused? I was scheduled for another presentation, but I had to steal in here based on doctor's profile for me. Please, if I have any other question, you can kindly communicate through the mails, please.
Yes,
definitely we will. Thank you so much, Idebere. We enjoyed your time.
Dr. Bene, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
So while Chidebere takes his leave, I'll invite Dr. Daniel Smile George. He's a researcher, ecopreneur, and environmental advocate. Of course, he has a PhD in natural resources and environmental sustainability management, remediation and impact. Has a master's degree in geotechnical and coastal engineering at the University of Port Harcourt. I know he will not just give us his insights about the theme, but he will tell us what is happening in the Niger Delta region. Of course, a region that has been on the spotlight. I'll invite Dr. Daniel. I don't know if I got your name correctly, Smile George, to take the virtual mic. And on that note, I'll take my leave. Over to Dr. Bene to moderate the remaining session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much for distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm so grateful to be given this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Bene, for this wonderful opportunity. I'm speaking directly from the peaks of the Niger Delta as the moderator has well introduced me. We are facing a lot of environmental issues. As you can see, my academic qualification, I'm trying to solve problems that we from the Niger Delta region are facing, especially environmental issues from ocean surge to our coastal erosion to oil spill and all that. So in the course of my presentation, please permit me, I will focus locally, I will focus on our local issues and also see on ways to how we can solve this problem. So I don't have a slide, but I will just quickly go down to what I have written. Yes, the topic says risk assessment and management in fossil fuel industry. Who is responsible? Of course, fossil fuel industry is a very big industry, global industry with major, controls the economy of the country and also the energy sector. So there are if you understand the risks that are involved in the fossil fuel industry, you know that there are some key environmental issues, especially in as it relates to the Niger Delta environment. Number one is environmental oil spill. Oil spill issue is a big issue in the Niger Delta. We have a lot of oil spill. In the course of my presentation, I actually was going down. I noticed that the volume, if I bring that information here, it will be so voluminous. But because of it, if anybody asks for it, I'll send. Then also gas emission in Niger Delta is a big issue. In the greenhouse gas emission are also where it also affects the rise of sea level, but it's also affecting our environment in Niger Delta. Then the biodiversity loss, which someone talked about. Then also we looked at operational issues, workplace safety. We noticed that recently, about two months ago, around the Cotton Channel area, there was a serious explosion. A vessel exploded and people died, and also the environment was degraded. And investigation was ongoing. We noticed it was negligence, equipment failure. And also recently, also in Elime, somewhere in Elime, there was a pipeline leakage, oil spill, because of pipeline integrity. The pipeline is old, it's changed. And of course, financial fluctuation. We know that because of oil price, there is financial fluctuations. And we also talk about renewable energy. Recently, if you go around Port Harcourt and everything, in fact, the majority of the Niger Delta region, you will notice that Niger Delta Development Commission is manning solar street lights all over the Niger Delta region. Like one of us just said, yes, it's good. Yes, it's also is helpful. At least at night you can see who is in front of you. However, we're expecting that these things can be also be produced here, so they can help our economy as well. Now, stakeholders and their responsibilities. I'll talk about stakeholders and their responsibilities. Government and regulatory bodies, for instance. We have noticed in our practice, like look at what happened in the cotton channel, and what is happening in the Niger Delta. You will agree with me that for me, I don't think Nostra is doing enough. There is the oil spill in the Niger is so huge that everywhere you go. Recently, I was in a community called Elentombia. I visited Elentombia and I shed tears where Jamin went to for fishing, and when they came back, inside their boat, everywhere was filled up with oil, food oil. And I asked them, what are you going to do with this fish? They said they will dry it, and they will eat some. They will dry the fish, they will eat some, and they will sell some. I said, do you know the implication of what you are talking about? You will sell this fish. They said, yes, that's what they've been doing, because there's no way they can survive, which for me, I think is a major issue. And that's why I'm also saying that enforcement of environmental protection laws and occupational safety guidelines is very important. So in course of that, we are looking at the scenario where we can set up a bridge between the government, especially the lawmakers, environmental lawmakers, the local government legislative arm, the state legislative arm, the National Assembly, to come together and also solve some of these environmental. They are the major stakeholders in this issue. So most of them don't even know what they are there for. So it is important we also educate them on what to do to protect our environment. Then also monitor activities, engage some regulatory agencies like the Nostra, the Federal Ministry of Environment, and other agencies to monitor the activities of people that are given license to operate in our region. Some of them don't even know what they are doing. They don't have any standard. They just do whatever they like and just move away with it because they have government backups and all that. Now, also, the companies, we have also noticed that they do what they do. They do what they call kill and divide. They use one community to fight another community to make sure they survive. And because of that, they run away from their corporate social responsibility. They avoid corporate social responsibilities to manage communities. Then conducting internal risk assessment and adhering to industrial standards. Most of them don't even do that. Majority of them don't even do that. And that's why you see our environment. Yes, we can also blame a little to our community leaders. Some of our community leaders go behind them to collect one or two small stipends and allow them to do what they are doing, which is also wrong. I will come to the community engagement. Now, also for our local communities, I also believe that we can also use local knowledge to solve some bigger environmental issues. There's not every environmental issues that you will use international approach to it. There are some that you use indigenous knowledge, which is key. You can solve some of these problems in indigenous knowledge. When I was growing up, there are signs that you will know that Christmas is coming. In where we grew up, we have time, 6 hours, you have to make sure you are doing whatever you do. If you don't do that 6 hours, water will come. We have this tidal movement. So we time ourselves in everything we are doing. So it's important we begin to understand indigenous knowledge on how to manage some ecological issues that we are facing. Then we also need collaborations with governments, developmental agencies, international agencies. Our keynote speaker talked about carbon crediting. How many of our communities in Nigeria know about this? How can we take it to them? Because they are the major people that are facing these challenges. If they can get those funding, believe me, they can work their community right. And international organization agreements. We should influence some of these things to our government, like the Paris Agreement. Global collaboration on emission reduction and sustainable energy transitions. standardizing best practice across borders to ensure accountability is very important. We do all this with our government agencies and policy. Now, challenges also, there are challenges that we also face as risk management. There are some major challenges in risk management, especially as it relates to the Niger Delta environment. Now, we should know we have a very fragile environment. We need soil protection. We need reclamation. Yes, it's important because we need to reclaim land for ourselves. Some of us are from the riverine community. It's important. We need to reclaim land for ourselves. But we should also know that we should balance economic growth with environmental conservation. We should also conserve our heritage sites. It's important we should make some arrangement. Yes, we know that we need development. It's also important that we should also make conservation a plan to conserve some areas for future purpose. You know, we should also lobby. We should also lobby some political agencies as communities to enforce some of these environmental laws. We have laws in Nigeria. We have some agreement that we have signed, international agreement that we have signed, which is important that we lobby these people to understand this and also encourage them to stick to it. Now, there are way forward. We should be able to strengthen multi-stakeholders collaboration in risk management. We should, like as I said earlier, from the local government, from the community to the local government, to the state government, to the federal government, the government agencies, and international agencies. We should have that collaboration. Direct funding to communities will help a lot in solving some of these issues. Encouraging technological innovations to reduce environmental and operational hazard is very, very important. Transparent reporting and accountability to build trust and ensure compliance. We should encourage companies that are operating in Nigeria to ensure compliance. Majority of them are not complying with the environmental standards and guidelines of the country. The future of this, the future of the Niger Delta is in our hands. The future of our environment, especially the Niger Delta ecosystem, is in our hands, and it's important that we set up a formidable force, a voice that can be speaking on all these issues we are facing in the Niger Delta environment. If we don't do that, most of our communities are gradually going on extinction. I will stop here for now and wait for more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel George. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Please, do we have questions? Are there questions from the audience? Okay, so I have a question that I'm reading here. Let me see. Say, how has implementation of PIA help in Niger Delta? Dr. Daniel, do you want to take up that question?
The PIA. I think last 2 years ago, they appointed me to one body, the Energy Cluster Development Board, and I noticed that what they do is they bring in people that don't understand these laws. So I think it's deliberate from the oil company and also the government agents, the head of, how would I call them? The government heads. They bring in people that does not understand these things. So what they do is they manipulate the communities. They manipulate the community. So it's not been helpful. It's even worse compared to when they used to have that GMOU. The GMOU is even better off than the PIA at the moment. Maybe with time it will change.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions from the audience? Okay, so I have another question. Is it possible Niger Delta implement a carbon pricing to mitigate greenhouse emission to combat climate change? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we are working with the Directorate of Environmental Protection and Control, the Niger Delta Development Commission. But I also noticed one thing, that some of the people they set up as board MD CEOs of this our region, the Niger Delta Development Commission, the South Development Commission, Niger Delta Basin Development Authority. Most of them, they are not interested in solving environmental issues in Niger Delta. They are focused on what they will get from it. We have made the proposal to do a lot in the Niger Delta, but we are still hoping that one day we are going to have a government that will listen. There are a lot that we talk about. You will agree with, there's this raffia palm that is all over the Niger Delta. That's where a lot of people can get palm wine. Because of this illegal refinery that has taken all over the Niger Delta, most of those forests are gone. So 70% of the palm you see on the road of the Niger Delta region, they are fake. They are not real palm. They are not palm wine. So we have also looked at, we did a research, and we also looked at all this, and we advised the commission that look, it is important we start to restore not just only mangrove restoration. Raffia palms is important. And you know that raffia palms are very good carbon sink as well. They are very good carbon sink as well. So, but now, it's still on the pipeline. If we have agencies, developmental agencies or international agencies that want to collaborate with us, we can be able to do all those things. We can restore as many as we can. Currently now, we're also looking at the Nipa palm invasion. Some people are saying, yeah, Nipa palm, but we're also looking at the scenario where we can convert those Nipa palms to start producing alcohol. We can use those Nipa palm. Currently, I went to Akwa-Ibom and discovered that people are using that Nipa palm. They are harvesting Nipa palm and producing alcohol there. So it is important we start looking at all those areas, to improve our economy in the Niger Delta region.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Professor Anoliefo. Please, can you unmute your mic to ask your question?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ekine. My sister Bene, I noticed that when Dr. Smile was talking, you were physically moved. I noticed you were worried, and I was too, because Dr. Smile spoke from his heart.
Yes.
He spoke from his heart. He spoke as one involved.
Yes.
Now, my brother George, what is the Niger Delta doing to rein in dissension, disunity, and bring up community participation? I did my secondary school in Ogoni, St. Pius X. And so I know the place. I was born there, and I also did some sabbatical in Shell. And I was involved in community participation, and I was also worried. So my brother, what is the Niger Delta doing to rein in these troublemakers, in quotes, so that there will be good governance among the Niger Deltans? Because if we speak from today till tomorrow, and we don't have good governance, that's what my society is all about. Environmental sustainability through good governance. That's our problem. My sister Bene, you were worried, and I noticed it. My brother George, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I know the question you asked is a very big question on me, which is what I've been thinking about. I thought when they set up Panellists will help us to tidy some of these issues. But I noticed that Some of them are politicians. In fact, majority of them are politicians. And you cannot solve Niger Delta problem with politics. It's not possible. Okay, I also thought of the IYC, INC. So they look at what's happening. A king of a community will make a pronouncement that please don't come to my community. Another group will say you must come to my community, and it happens. Politics everywhere is so sad. But I still believe, I still have hope. And one of the hope I have, I thank God for our mother, Dr. Bene. You know, she's someone that I still believe that with this, we will start with this. We can build bridges. Yes, I still believe that we can still build bridges that can connect all of us. We have a lot of professors, we have a lot of intellectuals, we've done a lot of research in the Niger Delta that we notice that if it is coming to our Niger Delta region, it has to pass through the National Assembly. And if in the Niger Assembly, how many of our people that are protecting our interests in the National Assembly? No, none. Even if we have anybody, do we have the numbers of people that will protect our interests in the National Assembly? So I think that the next thing to do is to begin to, after our collaboration, individual, whether you are from Ogoni, whether you're from Kalabari, whether you're from Abua, whether you're from Elsoko, we need to start building bridges, you know, formidable bridges, and now begin to attract people. And development should not be one-sided. Just like what has happened recently in Rivers, where development is only on one side. It should be across borders. Now, let me also say that our environments are different. It will also shock you that, look, let me go to the new Calabar River. One of the communities in New Calabar, let me use Elemtumbia for instance. Elemtumbia and Bakana territory, they are not the same. Elemtumbia and Bakana, they are in the same river, but they are not the same. The territory is different, terrain is different. So we should also understand that there are the terrain should be, and when you're citing developmental project, we should also consider that. I went to Dema community in Bene local government 3 weeks ago. I saw a very beautiful modern hospital. I also went to on that same community. I saw a very beautiful primary school building, very beautiful and well equipped. I walked into the health center, it's empty. I walked into the primary school on a school day, nobody. I now asked the CDC chairman, why are there no people? He said, nobody lives here. Nobody lives in this place. So that those facilities will just stay there and just run things like that. We should also be, it's important as you are forming, as you are setting up this bridge, you also focus on need assessment. There are some certain needs that are very, very peculiar to some environment. We should also begin to pinpoint those things. They are very important. Not just bringing because I'm from Tombia, I should go and set up university in Tombia, or because I'm from Bakana, I should go and set up anything in Bakana. No, we should do proper need assessment. As a manager, thank God that we are all researchers. We should do proper assessment and start to begin to build these bridges and solve our problems within ourselves. The government of Nigeria has failed us. I mean, that's how I see it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. George. Do we have any other question from the audience? We have to move fast now. Okay, in the absence of none. Any? No? Okay. I would like to progress in this panel discussion by calling on Mr. Ajayi-Obe, who he was meant to be the third responder actually, but our moderator mistakenly skipped him. So I'll introduce Mr. Ajayi-Obe, who is a very highly educated person with over 18 years of professional experience in environmental management, social performance, and sustainability. He's been involved in policy and standard development and implementation with environmental auditing on greenhouse gas and energy efficiency management. So he works with is the lead in environment management in Dangote oil and gas. So I will welcome you, and he has handled over $50 billion worth of cumulative projects to date. So let's welcome Mr. Yemi Adun to give us his perspective on the theme. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Sars. Good afternoon, Mars. A lot of profile, a lot of exciting information that we've had today from very great perspectives as well. So I was just speaking from the perspective of a passionate environmentalist who have seen the community dimension, who have seen the environmental pollution, who have also seen in some places where solutions have worked in a sustainable manner. Also, as someone who is very passionate about development, knowing that this is critical to our country. I'll start by saying that fossil fuel is the life of Nigerian economy as it stands today. There is no other way. If fossil fuel is out of Nigeria today, the country is probably going to go bankrupt. So identifying that criticality, that importance of fossil fuel in the Nigerian economy, then we start to look into the risk that is associated with not having, or not properly handling fossil fuel issues. And I have highlighted 7 various risks. And number one risk I'll be speaking to is developmental risk, and I'll be looking from the perspective of getting the fossil fuel out and how the resources from fossil fuel can develop the nation. As a geologist, I just completed my PhD in geology. So as a geologist, I know very well that exploring and taking out crude, irrespective of the terrain, is a very high risk operation anywhere in the world, which require a lot of technology that comes into that dynamics. And sometimes you find most of the people involved in this business focusing more on that risk other than the socioeconomic risk as well. And I think Niger Delta has proven to be a place where you go now, you must consider the socioeconomic risk before you do business effectively. But it will interest you that the same terrain, I'm speaking to Warri now, and I'm not a politician at all, but speaking to facts, the same terrain in Warri where Shell could not survive. CEPLAB has operated in that place safely and quietly. We are watching what will change between transition of SPDC to Renaissance. We are watching what is going to change in terms of the socioeconomic risk that is involved. So number one of those many risks that we need to look into is managing the developmental input of the technological and then the environmental and social dynamics of it. So how then do we manage it? From my experience, one of the things that worked very well is when you have all the stakeholders on the table from the beginning. You have the engineers, you have the environmentalists, you have the social performance professionals, you have the sustainability professionals, you have the communities, you have the government agencies, everybody together on the table from day one. Where failure usually comes is when people are very selfish, even when they're on that table. And I've seen that play out many times. With due respect to our brother who talked about a lot of political community dynamics, I can say confidently that I've seen very selfish representatives of communities who were very interested in their personal benefit other than the community benefit. And if they have driven community agenda, they would have gotten exactly what is needed in terms of community agenda. Community risk, which is the second thing I'll be talking about right now, both for the business, the nation, and the environment. When the community is not effectively managed in terms of meeting their needs, you're not going to be able to run your oil and gas operations very well. The nation is not going to get the money that is required. The community will not be happy. So it's everybody that is losing. So community risk is critical. It has to be given the right attention and managed effectively. One of the major underlying factors for community risk is the local leadership structure. In most of the time, the paramount ruler has the finances. Especially in Nigeria, the paramount ruler has a significant say, and people are afraid to challenge the paramount ruler. Interestingly, some of the people who operated as militants are now paramount rulers in Nigeria. And you will imagine who can challenge decisions of such individuals, no matter how selfish that person wants to be. Who will dare challenge that individual? So the company is not going to win, the nation will not win, and the community is not going to win in that scenario. Then the social risk, which looks into what becomes of people, what kind of people do that this kind of dynamics start to raise eventually, what kind of Nigerians. It amazes you that a lot of Nigerians who are not able to thrive in country have gone abroad under a very different social setting and have become game changers. The only thing that changed is just the social setting. They did not become more intelligent because they've gone abroad. It's simply because the social setting is enabling. And we need to start to think about this. And from very microscopic level to the macroscopic level, starting from families, as parents, what is the culture we're driving in our homes? Is the culture of when you get into government, you can go and embezzle your own. Is the culture of this is how my dad makes money, and they know it's not clear. We need to start working on that, because if you look at our society, there are more thieves not carrying guns than the ones that are carrying guns in this country. People who have made up their mind to just steal when they have the opportunity to. And I've seen many of them irrespective of, and it's not about size. In fact, your community expects from you, and when you occupy a political position, that they have to start getting some things, irrespective of how you get it. Social issues, the economic issues, both for the nation. Right now in Nigeria, I don't know if you've been monitoring, the pump price has been changing gradually. Before now, some people just sat down and made decisions on pump price. These days, because a private player came into that space and is fighting that dynamics, pump price right now is not what NNPC decides. Simply because somebody chooses to upset the system. And I can tell you clearly from an insider perspective, it's not an easy dynamics. Sometimes some of us are afraid that with this refinery be allowed to function. Will it be allowed to try? We're really scared. But if you don't have somebody who is a strong fighter who really wants to make this happen, people are willing to kill this business. People are willing to make that investment go just for their selfish reason. Their reputational risk for us as a country is huge. People call us many names, even as community, people call us many names. The environmental risk, a lot of the previous speakers have talked a lot about this. And the final one, which I will be speaking about, is the sustainability risk. We are not able to deliver to ourselves and to our next generation a more strategic dynamics way of living, simply because we focus on what we can get now and now alone. Energy dynamics is easy. A lot of us in Nigeria are using solar in our homes. In my opinion, one of the places where solar is being most adopted is Nigeria. I don't know this negative part that is going outside. There are a lot of homes in Nigeria that are using solar. In my house, we use solar. During the day, we use solar. In fact, right now in Nigeria, if you are on Bene and if you don't have an alternative floor, you're in trouble. You're probably spending like 250,000 naira a month on PXCM bill only. But if you do have solar, during the day, immediately there is light, my children know how to do, they know what to turn off. Till around 5 p.m., we run on solar. And there are so many homes in Nigeria who are doing that. So I think Nigeria is one of the major adopters of solar. So if we cannot adopt solar on the large scale, we can adopt solar on the small scale. And when you add this cumulative small scale together, before you know it, we have a large scale impact. That would be my contribution. Thank you. I'm over to questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ajayi-Obe. Very, very, very beautiful presentation and talk, and giving you your candid perspective. Do we have questions in the audience, from the audience, please? Any question from the audience? No question. Right. My question is, what is the role of before I ask my question, there is one question. Let me give the person. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and speak.
I'm sorry, I had to jump out for another time, back again. Yeah. I want to know how can we drive down the cost of solar? I don't know if that question has been asked before. How do you drive down the cost? Where at least, I mean, if you look at it, when it comes to emitters, it's better past, there's what we call better past my neighbor. That the low people who don't have very much money use. How can we get to that level where we can drive down solar to leverage the average person? Those socioeconomic groups, to a certain extent, can use.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that question, and I think the solution is here in Nigeria already. I visited some local communities recently. I can't remember, maybe it's Starlink, they call it. They have this very interesting technology. You buy a solar panel that will be on top of your house. I think it's Starlink, they call them. I can't remember the name. It will be on top of, if you go to the villages, you'll see it in almost basic, their focus is on the villages, and I think it's even by the Chinese. You'll be paying, I think, 500 naira per day. So you'll be paying little by little. Over the space of 6 months or 3 months, you will have finished paying, and they will give you this solar panel from day one that will be on top of your house, and people have light. People are able to use their phones. It will amaze you that GSM is in the most interior village you can ever think of in this country. Excuse me. The major issue used to be power. And this technology, I can check their name maybe when I'm off and put the name in there. They're solving the problem in the interiors. They made it affordable for the people. They made it easy for them to pay. They don't have the 3 million, 5 million to install in a big house. So that is happening. Another way is that a lot of organizations that are even into fossil fuel are doing something alongside solar. It will amaze you that Shell have a business hand that is into solar. And I know so many other big organizations that are into, even though in my opinion, politically speaking right now, is a survival mode. Let's be there, even if it's not our core business right now. Let's put one leg in that place and be present. In case anything changes tomorrow, we can have a say. That would be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very insightful.
Yes.
So lots of things are going on in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. So my question will be, although Dr. Dayo has taken part of my question already, so we have another audience wanting to speak, so let's give that person the go ahead. I will ask my question last. Right, go ahead, Mazi, please.
Hello? Yes, I want to thank Dr. Ajayi-Obe. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I want to thank Dr. Ajayi-Obe for his wonderful presentation. Yes, let me take it from, it's going to be like a question and a comment as well. The Niger Delta challenge, or Niger Delta crisis or issue, as regard the environmental, issues. So, I want to, align with Dr. Ajayi-Obe that the host communities they are not they are not ready to get the whole place cleaned up and maybe their soil remediated, because they from my own research, being director to an agricultural innovative company that is into soil remediation. As a matter of fact, we invented first of its kind in the world an instant organic manure making machine. So we were contacted by an organization that had contracts, or they were about to go into a contract with the high prep also to clean up the Ogoni land, and we had started work. And then we called for the, samples of the soil samples, so I will be able to know the extent of pollutants that we have there, and the extent of pollution and the type of pollutant. So at the end, I consulted a professor who, as a matter of fact, he rolled out most of those policies, that is this natural, policies and all that, for government. He's a consultant to most African governments. So he told me that, look, if it's for Ogoni, don't just bother yourself. Don't even waste your time, because the people there are not willing, they are not ready. They want just what they want to put in their private pockets. The community, the leaders there, everybody wants, in fact, that is the major challenge why Ogoni has not been able to, achieve any milestone in terms of cleanup. So that comes to my question. And this is to Dr. Smile George. What program do you have in place to sensitize the people, to make them understand that, number one, the health of the soil or the health of humans or the society in Ogoni land is directly proportional to the health of the soil? If your soil is unhealthy, it means the society, the people there will be unhealthy. What program do you have in place to sensitize your people, to make them drop this idea of self, and see that the entire Niger Delta is cleaned up and then the soil remediated? That's my number one question. And then the other one, and this is direct to Dr. Adeyemi. How, and this goes back to my earlier question, how do we, because I hear you talk about solar homes and all that. Yes, but one thing is sure, and I have not had many people say it, that solar is the least efficient. How is it least efficient? People are not asking this question. It is because of the breakdown of the batteries, from the panel to all of that. So it makes it inefficient to the point of between 5% and 25% efficiency maximum. Now, this is my question. Nigeria as a country, for example, Africa as a continent, how do we industrialize? What is the energy audit, the energy need of Nigeria? What is exactly energy need for an industrialized Nigeria? for an industrialized Africa, for example, what is the energy need? Africa generates 170,000 megawatts. 170,000 megawatts for a population of 1.4 billion people, right? Nigeria today can't even generate 4,000 megawatts for 200 million people. Meanwhile, the world body, including the World Bank, has recommended 1 kilowatt hour per capita minimum. So if this is a position and put together, the whole of Africa is 170,000 megawatts. How can we industrialize? Because this issue of solar, you are talking of powering home. The powering home is not industrialization. Powering home is not industrialization. Africa governments must put money to build power in line with their population size. The only country that have gotten it got it there before Biden deceived the president there now, Ramaphosa, to take $8.5 billion to shut down their 13 coal power plants. And then that is when South Africa started having issues on power. They were already there. They're already doing 58,000 megawatts. Yes, 58,000 megawatts. And their population was about 60 million people. So they were already almost 1-to-1. They're already doing 58 million kilowatts, which is 58,000 megawatts. So 58 million to almost 60 million, 58, 60 million, it's almost 1-to-1. So South Africa was already almost there in terms of industrialization. And then suddenly Biden told Ramaphosa to shut down their coal power plants, while their own 224 coal power plants are still on and running. This is hypocrisy. I need us to understand where we are in this continent and what these people are doing to us. So we must understand it this way, that if we don't look at ourselves in the face, eyeball to eyeball, and say, look, this is the way to go. We want to industrialize, not just powering homes. You are talking of solar power. Is this solar that they are using to power? Go and look at the solar energy contribution to the power grid of the United States. I just told you that 96% of their energy resource, and this is from their government, this thing, not me saying, you can Google it. It's 96% is hydropower, renewable energy resource. They are doing their fossil fuel. They are doing their coal. All the energy means they are there, but yet they are coming to tell us in Africa to go green, to go green, to go green. Bribing, giving out $8.5 billion to a country that has almost achieved, that energy sufficiency to drop their coal-fired power plant, to shut it down. So my question to you guys is, how do we industrialize with this solar? Not powering home. Powering home is not industrialization. Thank you.
So can I start?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank God he raised this matter. I was the first contractor, right, the Keynote project. I was the first contractor, but one, in Bene, awarded, I think in 2019 or so. We have the IPREP. IPREP has a standard. They are the first clean up of the environment. Number 2 is provide water. Then number 3 is livelihood. So food livelihood. One of the things that can be used, how can the programs they have is really look at how to survive apart from oil spill activity. But I know that's a smaller scale compared to what I know somebody in the Niger Delta that makes 17 million naira a day on oil bunker, 17 million naira a day, and you're telling him to stop. No, you're telling someone that's making 17 million naira every night, make 17 million. You're telling him to stop what he is doing. And you will tell him that you're going to give him amnesty of 65,000 naira a month. How possible is that? It's not going to stop. You are sending the person, okay, I'm going to send you abroad to study aeronautics or whatever. This person has no first degree. He has no educational background. You want to send him abroad. One of the things I noticed, the federal government set up was this Tantita security, which Tom Polo is the head of the Tantita security, to like set up a community where most of them survive. And I must tell you, it has reduced the activity, bunkering activity to a certain level. Even if it's still on, but at least it has reduced a lot. We no longer experience the black suit we used to face in Port Harcourt at the moment, but it has reduced a lot. So there are programs like the amnesty program, not just only giving them stipends, they're also training, they're also doing some training. Even in my project site, when I was in the project, I trained a lot of remediation procedures, how to restore soil remediation. I taught a lot of them, and I'm happy that one or two of them have invited me to their project site. They're doing well, And also farmland restoration projects. I taught them on how to restore their farmland so it can be useful for agricultural activity, not just apart from using fertilizer. So there are ways I taught them how to use sewage water, other programs. There are programs that they are running, but on my own also, as I speak to you now, I have about 4 young men that are into this bunkering oil bunkering activity. 4 of them are in the University Polytechnic, Kenule Benson Polytechnic. 2 of them are running civil engineering, then 2 are running. One is civil, 2 civil, 1 mechanical, and 1 electrical. I'm paying for them. As I speak to you, there's one. I have one of them in University of Port Harcourt that is running a PhD at the moment on natural resources and environmental management. There's also one that is running this, the one I just finished, MSc on geotechnical and coastal engineering. I'm bringing them out of the creek. I'm bringing them out of the creek to align them on understanding what they are doing. If you have that knowledge, you will do better. We are all. I don't know why my brother Fayama is not talking. I think that he's online here. I would have, Doctor, please, I would like you to tell Fayama to just speak at least a minute. He's also one of the people that are seriously shouting on the environment. So I don't know, Fayama, if you are here, please, just 1 minute. Tell us what you are doing also.
Okay, Fayama, please speak up. You unmute yourself. He's probably not here. I don't think. Yeah, I have. Yeah, there's Fayama here. Yellowy.
Yeah, yes.
Please unmute yourself. I don't think he wants to talk. So if he wants to talk, he will unmute himself. Right. Dr. Yemi, can you please, do you want to respond to Maz's comments and question?
Okay, thank you very much, Mazi. Fantastic question and perspective. So you're very correct about the inefficiency of solar. One of my knowledge about creating alternatives to power is that you start to solve that problem little by little. And in terms of industrialization of Nigeria, the major problem is power. For the organization I work for, every business we've done that is successful, we generate our own power. Anyone that you depend on another person for power, that business is probably going to struggle or not flourish. But every business we do, we generate our own power. And it's been very, very successful. Now, what that has done is that it has increased the overhead. You now need to spend a lot more to produce whatever you produce at that point in time. But I did an analysis recently, and I was saying that with the way we have mastered power generation as an organization, there is nothing bad in having our own company where we generate power and sell. Because from trying to make our business succeed, we have mastered that art better than the people who are in the act of generating power and selling. And in our own case, we are not generating to sell. We are generating to ensure the business run. So there's more strategic focus in that. It will interest you that power industry is enjoying, what do you call this one that was removed for subsidy? Power industry is enjoying subsidy. The government has put a lot of things in place to make it easy for people to go into power generation. Recently, there are a lot of opportunities for states, for private organizations to go into power generation. And if people can take this up for an estate, let somebody be there to generate power. Area market, I think is in the Abia State, is running on private power generation. And since that time, it's been thriving. I'm hoping one day I'll become president of Nigeria. That will become our China. Because there's a lot of opportunity in that place. Right? There is nothing, just bring the sample. They will produce a version for you in that place, in that market. Yeah. You will come, and that is what the Chinese government are doing. But the power problem in that place was solved by a private partnership. A lot of places in Lagos where power is working, a lot of industry where power is because there is local production of power. And that is the model that I think can work for us in Nigeria. So we are waiting for government to start producing and start selling on the grid for everybody. The grid will start collapsing. Sometimes the problem is not even the power generation. The power is generated is the grid that has collapsed. But if the power is close to the source, the risk of grid collapsing becomes minimal. In fact, it will interest you that redemption camp had to generate home power. And since then, people leave from Lagos to go and live on redemption camp that is in Ogun State because of power availability. And then recently, there was problem with the gas pipe that is supplying gas to the turbines there. And they don't have power. People who have been enjoying free power use solar as an alternative. So solar is not the absolute solution. For solar, we rescue us from being inside that place. That is the way how we market solar right now. Because there are a lot of dynamics with solar. If you want to do a solar farm, you need a very huge land mass. There are a lot of environmental dynamics to that, which I don't want to go into right now. So solar also has its own. So it's not the perfect tweak. It has its own risk. It has its own dynamics. And it interests you that majority of the materials used to make the solar panel are from Africa. And that's another very interesting conversation on its own. So solar is good. Solar is not the best for industrialization. But solar is good for solving the small power problems. If we want industrialization, the cleanest, closest fuel we can use right now is either hydro or gas. And when we start to do it en masse, very close to the source where people, the consumers are, we start to solve a lot of power problems in Nigeria. And I think that has worked in most places that you will have. And again, comparing ourselves with some countries might have a very interesting dynamic. So we need to look at what is working for us right now. What I've seen that have worked for us right now in Nigeria is allow a private sector generate the power very close to the consumers. The consumers will be happy to pay as long as they have the power consistently available. The price, because of production, might go a bit high, but because it's consistent, it will be different from when they have to use pump diesel, generate power on their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Dayo's hand was up a few minutes ago. I don't know if you still want to.
Yes, I just want to say that, I just want to add that solar, I know it isn't not very efficient, but it is improving as the day goes by. So I think there's a long track way to improve, but it is improving gradually. I don't think we'll ever be able to industrialize a country, but I think when it comes to small scale business, it might get there. It's interesting that Dr. Admin said about the power generation being very close to the people. I think with Nigeria as a whole, we need to have everything very close to us. It has to be driven by, it must be near the community. Health itself has to be driven by the community. We need to understand that we're still community beings. And most of our country, most people are first generation educated. And they're very attached to the communities. And so I think that's where most things have to happen. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. I have question, but I think my question can wait because it's more is a question and a comment. But so I will include my question and comment into my wrap up of the theme for the Earth Day. So I want to introduce a PhD scholar at Cyprus University. He will be speaking on phasing out fossil fuel subsidies, a key step towards a sustainable future. Lawson Domingo is from Cyprus International University, Nicosia, Cyprus.
All right.
So,
yes. Hello, good afternoon. Firstly, I would like to appreciate Therapeutic, most importantly, Professor Bene, Ekine, Afolabi, and your team for the privilege of having me to be as part of the panelists. I sincerely appreciate you and your team as well. So briefly, let me briefly introduce, I think how many minutes do I have, Professor Bene?
If you can do with 15 minutes, please, if that's okay. We've really spent a lot of time. And just to correct you, this is not organized by Zip Therapeutic, although I work with Zip Therapeutic. So it's the NGO. Citizens Wellbeing Intervention. And
all right, thank you very much for the correction. Thank you very much for the privilege. Yeah, my name is Adeni Lawson Domingo. I am currently a doctoral student at Cyprus International University. I'm currently studying sustainable tourism, and I'm also a part-time lecturer at Başakşehir Cyprus University, where I lecture in the tourism department. Looking at this World Earth Day, it's a very, very monumental moment for everyone as we and everybody take proactive action in our bid to mitigate climate change. So I'm going to make it very brief so that everybody could definitely have one or two things to learn from. Okay, why do I choose this topic? I feel that, okay.
Do you want to share your slide? Sorry.
Okay, let me see if I can find my slide here. Okay, let me share my slide. Yes, please. Moments. Share. Share slide. Okay, no, this is not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to find mine.
If you can't just you can keep talking, we can listen to you, I guess.
Okay.
Or if you can share that.
Okay, let me just continue because I'm having issues with the share with my system. Okay, so the reason why I chose this topic, facing out this issue, is because of the fact that I feel that one of the major problems that can affect our planet is the burning of fossil fuel. And as an advocate of environmental sustainability, I feel that the major three tripodal factors that we need to consider is the economic, We also consider the environmental, and we also talk about the social, or I call it the equity. So when we talk about the removing subsidies, why do I choose this topic? Firstly, from the economic, I feel that the fossil fuel subsidies itself, it's more like an economic drain. It's something that is draining the global economy. And most of the people that are currently at the receiving end is the African continent. So globally, this fossil fuel subsidies, it amounted to a staggering $7 trillion as at 2022, according to International Monetary Fund. And that money itself could be invested in education, healthcare, and also clean energy transition. So which can definitely create more jobs and long-term prosperity. So I also write down about the environmental sustainability, which everyone knows that we are currently at a critical junction. So according to IPCC reports, which are absolutely unequivocal, it said that we need deep and rapid emission reduction, yet these fossil fuel subsidies are projected to increase emission by 14% by 2020, according to OECD fossil fuel report. And phasing them out is absolutely non-negotiable. So we need to find a way to phase out fossil fuel subsidy, and also for equity in terms of social sustainability. I pointed that fossil fuel subsidies disproportionately benefited the wealthy. And in those countries, the richest 20% of the population receive up to 6 times more, and the fuel subsidies benefit more than for the poorest 20%. So why is this fuel subsidy very bad? Subsidizing fossil fuel, why is it bad? One, it distorts the market. So subsidies artificially lowers the price of fossil fuels. For example, in some markets, some gasoline is subsidized to the point where it is cheaper than bottled water. There are some countries, actually in the Gulf region, the fossil fuel, it's very, very cheap. A very good example is Kuwait and Qatar. It's very, very cheap, even than water. So it makes it very harder for electric vehicles to compete. So according to a study by the World Bank, it found that removing fossil fuel and subsidies could lead to a 13% increase in renewable energy investment. And also, why I said it's very bad is because of the environmental damage it will cause. So I thought of, okay, incentivizing fossil fuel consumptions, subsidies contribute to increased greenhouse gas emissions. So according to IEA reports, it estimates the eliminating fossil fuel subsidies what is it going to do? It's going to reduce the global carbon monoxide emissions by 6.9% by 2050, putting us to a better trajectory to meet our climate goals. And why I argue that it's very, very, very bad in terms of subsidizing fossil fuel. One, another reason is economic inefficiency. So subsidies divert public funds. The $7 trillion spent globally on fossil fuel in 2022 is more than 3 times the amount needed annually to achieve universal access to clean energy. Another reason is the hindrance to innovation. Subsidies create an uneven playing ground. Venture capital investment in clean energy technologies would definitely increase if renewables were able to compete. And also, it also exacerbates inequality. There is total inequality in terms of the diverting resources from education, healthcare, and other essential services. And also, it has this global limitation. So what are the benefits of we phasing out fossil fuel subsidies? We don't need to be fossil. We shouldn't be subsidizing, government shouldn't be subsidizing fossil fuel because one, I live in Northern Cyprus. Northern Cyprus is a totally Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. One of the things Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus heavily rely on is fossil fuel burning. Everywhere you see cars everywhere, they keep burning fuels everywhere. And till now, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is one of those countries that are currently at the lowest rate of using electric vehicles in part of the European Union. So what are the benefits of phasing out subsidies? One, it gives us a level playing field. So by removing subsidies, it creates a level playing field. The cost of solar and wind energy has plummeted in recent years, and they're even more cheaper than fossil fuel without subsidies. So by removing these subsidies, we allow other forms of technologies to really compete and drive down energy costs. So, and also another benefit is the investment in renewables. So the money that has been saved can be redirected. For example, now, Germany, for example, now they phased out coal subsidies and reinvested those funds in renewable energy projects, leading to a significant increase in renewable energy capacity and job creation in the green sector. According to reports by IRNA, it's estimated that redirecting fossil fuel subsidies to renewable energy could create 4.2 million jobs globally by 2030. So another benefit is it's reduced emissions. So phasing out these fossil fuel subsidies, it will lead to a decrease in emissions. So according to a report, because I speak with facts, the IEA estimates that eliminating fossil fuel subsidies will reduce global carbon monoxide emissions by 6.9% by 2050. And the benefits are also its improved air quality, reduced fossil fuel use will improve air quality. According to air pollution from fossil fuel, which is responsible to millions of premature deaths each year. A study by Lancet estimated that phasing out fossil fuel subsidies can prevent 3.6 million premature deaths. So we talk about economic diversification. You know, when you phase out subsidies, it helps to diversify economy. A lot of countries are definitely diversifying from fossil fuels at the moment. So, and also it helps our fiscal policy, and it helps to increase, it gives us increased energy security. So what are the potential challenges that we need to acknowledge based on the difficulties we could face? Job losses. So we need to acknowledge that phasing out subsidies may lead to job. A lot of few people will lose their job. So according to studies that have shown that renewable energy sector creates more jobs per dollar invested than fossil fuel. So according to a report by WRI, which is the World Resource Institute, they find that investing in renewable energy could create 3 times as much jobs as investing in fossil fuel. And also another potential challenge and concern is price increase. So when we remove subsidy, it might lead to higher energy price. I'm a Nigerian. I remember when our former president, ex-president Goodluck Jonathan removed the subsidy. What happened? It led to a price increase that it leads to a lot of protests back then in Nigeria. So this issue can be mitigated by targeted assistance program, which I think the government of Nigeria did, but I think it was not well organized, so which led to a lot of concerns from the citizens. And also the major concerns about this removal of supporting fuel subsidy is political opposition. So when we phase out subsidy, it can also face strong political opposition, and it is important you build public support through clear communication and transparency. And also it also brings competitiveness. If one country phases out subsidies while others don't, it could impact competitiveness. So according to what we are saying, international cooperation is very, very essential. So what are the solutions and the recommendations? 1, gradual phasing out. So a gradual approach is more politically feasible. For example, now in Indonesia, they phased out gasoline subsidies over a period of several years, allowing consumers and businesses to adjust to the higher prices. And also, it also gives targeted support. By providing targeted support to low-income households, conditional cash transfer policy can be done. For example, the ones currently going on in Mexico, it helps to mitigate the impact of higher energy prices on vulnerable or the economically disadvantaged population. And also, it's investment in renewables. So when we reinvest the savings in renewable energy development, for example, now in Germany, there's something we call Energiewende, or the energy transition. They did a research, so they noticed that it demonstrates a transformative potential for investing in renewable energy. So everything is simply strictly just transition. So we should need to also implement policies to support workers, environmental policy makers, and also retraining programs, job placement services, and early retirement option can help workers in the fossil fuel industry transition to new careers in the renewable energy sector. And also it brings in transparency and accountability. So one of the benefits is also carbon pricing. I asked a question about carbon pricing the other time. So carbon pricing is just trying to like place a price or to mitigate greenhouse emissions mostly by government. So when we complement subsidy removal with carbon pricing mechanisms, carbon taxes or cap and trade systems can further incentivize emission reduction and create additional revenue also for the government. So why are we here? Public awareness campaign. We need to launch more public awareness campaign. So this campaign can educate people about the benefit of phasing out fossil fuel subsidies and the importance of transitioning into a sustainable energy system. I think Nigeria is currently working on CHD cars right now. I think they are beginning to transition, but we need more public awareness as well. So what are the things we need? We need to be urgent, we need to be optimistic, and we need to take it personal. So what I mean by urgent is that it demands immediate action. The longer we delay, the more difficult and costly it will be to transition to a sustainable energy system. So we need to phase out fossil fuel subsidies, which is a crucial step we need to take now. And being optimistic, we are talking about phasing out fossil fuel subsidies is challenging, but it's an achievable goal. By working together, we can create a cleaner, more prosperous, and more equitable world for future generations. So let's use this opportunity to build a better future for all. And personal, I believe, from my own personal view, I believe that phasing out fossil fuel subsidies is one of the most important steps. So what are the key steps? So when we take this action, I believe that phasing out process is going to be very achievable. Thank you very much. I am very grateful. Room for questions.
Thank you so much, Lucine. We're grateful for your presentation. Any question from the audience, please? Question. Right. I am all for subsidy, cutting off subsidy. So my question will be, how do you want to cut off subsidy in an economy that is unpredictable, negatively unpredictable, like Nigeria?
Okay, for example, now, if you look at the way Nigeria first subsidy removal, what happened the other time, if you notice that around that, it was totally unpredictable. For example, during the era of our President Goodluck Jonathan, but I feel that we can choose various mechanisms to definitely minimize the negative impact of subsidy removal. So according to the World Bank, they propose a temporary price cap, which could be ensured that, okay, fuel price increases do not inflict too much pain on customers. So you remember when they increased when they removed profits, it caused a lot of pain. So we need to make the approach can be enabled to significantly reduce, but not eliminate the physical burden of. So another approach I think is by periodic price adjustment, setting the price based on the monthly average of previous month's import cost. And another gradually, so phasing out subsidies can be a better approach for a number of reasons, because Nigeria has become Nigerians are so suspicious of government intentions. Everybody know that. Once they say they want to remove subsidy, the Nigerians will be a bit worried. So, and I feel the government should reestablish more of like government credibility and good intentions. So by doing that, they need to offer economics like cash transfer, food subsidy for poor Nigerians, and I feel they should increase the wage of workers and to give more scholarship for indigent students as well. So those are the things I feel that Nigerians can do to reduce the impact.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, we're really running out of time, and I would love to call on Dr. Adaju to speak, but Professor Anoliefo needs to come in now because he has to jump out of the meeting very soon. So I will allow Professor Anoliefo to speak to give us his remarks before Dr. Adaju speaks, please. Please be patient with us, Dr. Adaju. Professor, can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you very much, my prof. Sorry, I need to do a grandfather's job right away.
Let me introduce you properly, sir, so that you don't just speak. So, Professor Geoffrey Obina Anoliefo is a professor of ecophysiology and remediation technology in the Department of Plant Biology and Biotechnology, University of Benin. He focused on three key areas: petroleum perturbations on physiology of higher plants, bioremediation of contaminated soils, and environmental sustainability, with emphasis on the employment of sacred groups in the indigenous conservation of germplasm. So please join me to welcome Professor. That's just a brief intro of Professor. He's an highly intelligent man with so much years of experience, over 40 years. So you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me also add that there's a degree there you didn't add, retired.
Retired, yes. Professor Emeritus.
Retired. Yeah, retired last year. Thanks a lot. It's been a fiery discussion. It's been wonderful. It's been educative. We thank our sister for providing the platform. Many things would have been said, but the time is not there. So let me quickly see if I can do a meaningful recap. We started with Professor Dayo, Ajayi, and she spoke on the health aspect of this issue. She made a point in her title that Nigeria needs to join the rest of the world in actually looking for clean climate tech. He talked about renewables, that those are very important. He spoke much on climate change, on health, and her emphasis was on the fact that Nigeria has the resources to meet with those, but just probably lacking the will. She spoke a lot on other issues. She also commented on the health sector, being that the health sector should now move towards personal medicine. And we may not be there yet, but it is encouraged. I'll go on to the next speaker, and that is Dr. Anna Gushi, the musician, who is using music very much in her work. On risk assessment and management in fossil fuel, Dr. Anna talked about, the question is who is responsible. She dwelt mainly on the planetary boundaries, where she spoke on loss of biodiversity, looking at different areas. The planet is blue because the sea is blue. So she said we need to go from the anthropocentric to other areas like green to blue. She talked about landscape urbanism and secular metabolism. She talked about saline agriculture, and she was taking up on that area, but she did justice to it also, because she said the area she's visited, especially the Middle East area, they have saline water a lot, and they have to find a way to survive. If we're talking about agriculture, you must deal with what you have. She stressed on bioregions with emphasis on Africa. She made reference to late Prof. Francis Laudate Si, which is a very important book for every environmentalist to look at. And that talks about man's responsibility to the environment. She made reference to that. She spoke on symbiotic urbanism, water positive design, blue degrowth. She also spoke on why soil matters, eco regeneration, and the others. She spoke a little about her music, and it was a very beautiful topic. The next in line was Dr. Who is that again? Let me also use the opportunity to thank Dr. Izu Egeruoh-Adindu, who did a yeoman's job in moderation, but she had to leave early for other responsibilities. The first respondent was Dr. Eugene, very, very ably represented by Emmanuel Chidebere. I say ably represented because he did a marvelous job on the area. And the title of what he talked about was sustainable means of generating power. He said that Nigeria is large on information and policies, but the problem is implementation. Emmanuel is not quite a fan of total green shift or total and immediate and quick green shift. He talks about gradual transitioning, and it really resonated a lot with participants because he did a good job on that area. The next speaker was Dr. Smile George, who passionately, I must emphasize on that, Dr. George spoke from his heart, and he spoke like somebody who is very much involved. He has also told us that he has trained a lot of hands, and what is needed actually in the Niger Delta is community participation. The community must get involved. And government, yes, government is important to provide the enabling environment, but community, they know where they wear the shoe, and so they know where it pinches. So Dr. George passionately talked about all of these, getting the community involved and people being sincere. So everybody must bring something to the table. And when you are doing that, you must know that you are discussing your people. This is, you can't spoil the nose to spite the face. The next speaker was Dr. Yemi Adun of Dangote. He said that fossil fuel is important to the Nigerian economy. Yeah, that is a fact. But he dwelt on social economics, and the social economic risk is in energy activities. Dr. Yemi stated that all stakeholders, when we are discussing social economics of energy generation, all stakeholders must be on the same table and must be less selfish for the needs of the community. He gave several reasons for his allusion. The next in line was Dr. Lawson Domingo, and he spoke on phasing out of subsidy. This is a touchy issue because in Nigeria, whenever you talk about subsidy, everybody listens. Whether they get anything out of it or not, that's a different question, and that's a different thing altogether. Dr. Lawson Domingo he spoke on phasing out of burning fossil fuels, and he took them in steps. Number one, he said that burning out of fossil fuel will distort the market. Number 2, we contribute to increase in greenhouse gas emission. Number 3, economic inefficiency. And he talked about the benefits, and these include creating a level playing field. Number 2 on that, on the benefits, it helps investing in renewables. Number 3 of the benefits is that it reduces emission. And number 4 is that it improves health quality. He also talked about the challenges that we have in phasing out fossil fuel. He talked about number 1 of the challenges is job losses. Number 2 of that will be higher energy price. Number 3 of that will be political opposition, which is always there. Once you do that, you probably lose the next election, like Jonathan did. Then he gave his recommendations, and those include gradual phasing out. And one thing I noticed in this discussion is that everybody seemed to be gravitating to that. Yeah. It is good to go green, but we will also put into context who we are talking about, Africa and Africans. So we need to be gradual on it. We need to do it phasically. We don't need to rush into it. Yes, we have a goal. We have a goal, but we'll get there. But nobody should stampede us into getting there. So the gradual phasing out seemed to be resonating throughout the lectures. Number 3 in the recommendation is investing in renewable energy. And number 4 is education and awareness. I must say that it was a feast of intellectualism. That's what we did today. It was a festival of the best, giving out the best, for the best, organized by the best. I cannot thank Professor Ekine enough for bringing together this kind of, the caliber of intellectuals who spoke today. It is heartwarming. It is admirable that we are looking at sustainability from different angles, and we are bringing it up to the table for discussion. I must thank Professor Bene for gathering such scholars to discuss under your guidance, because you can't give what you don't have. You have it, so you are giving it out. Thank you very much, my sister. You are blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Can we all please just give some applaud onto Professor Anoliefo virtually, please? Use your icon to appreciate Professor Anoliefo. Thank you so much, sir. Professor Anoliefo has to go and pick his grandchildren, so that's why he had to do the closing remarks.
Yes. Yes.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. We're grateful. Okay, so I will call on Dr. Adaju now to briefly give us his talk for 10-15 minutes. He's going to be talking on transitioning, just as, you know, the talk has been gearing towards, you know, not immediate jumping away from fossil fuels, so transitioning, the process of transitioning. So I'm going to briefly introduce Dr. Segun Adaju. He's an energy consultant, former energy consultant to African Development Bank Group, is the Chief Energizing Officer at Consistent Energy Limited. Dr. Adaju is here. Let me just briefly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you're welcome, Dr. Adaju. So Yeah, he's
Thank
also
you so much.
he's also the lead consultant as SOS Ada Consulting Limited. He was with them for about 17 years. And he's the president of Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria up until September 2022. And is consultant and financing advisor to Solar Energy Program up until 2015. Please join me to welcome Dr. Segun Adaju.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for inviting me. My sincere apologies that I joined a bit late. There was a meeting that was scheduled with one of the states in the government that was for yesterday, but impromptu, they just called all of us that we need to convert. So I apologize, Ma.
You're
I
welcome.
apologize.
No problem. Thank you.
Let me also say thank you to Prof for the recap. It's like, I mean, I've been worrying that, look, I didn't know what other speaker have said, but the recap of Prof was very, very, very useful. So, Prof, thank you so much if you're still around. Great. So, let me just, I'll be very brief, less than the number of minutes you mentioned, because what needs to be said has already been said from the recap that I've had. But let me just start with a lighter mood. So yesterday there was a news item going around on social media that Aso Rock is cutting off from the national grid, and that a 10 billion naira budget approval has been given for the seat of the presidency to deploy solar, and it was just everywhere. I mean, are they abandoning us on the grid? Are they going on their own? Okay, so basically, it's a sign of where we are and probably things to come. But I also strongly support and believe that the transition should be gradual, it should be equitable, it should be just and fair, meaning everyone needs to be carried along. I mean, of course, that's why we have the energy transition plan for Nigeria, one of those plans that I was also part of the contributors in developing for the nation of Nigeria. And in that energy transition plan, interestingly, gas is seen as the transition fuel for Nigeria. Gas is the transition fuel for Nigeria. And of course, gas is still a byproduct of the fossil that we're talking about. So it's going to be a bit very difficult if we are expecting Nigeria to cut off from fossil right now and jump on green. I am a strong advocate of green. My top has been green and renewable energy, but I also know that there is a process to this and it has to be gradual. Last week, or thereabouts, there was a report that was released that Nigeria's gas reserve, interestingly, has increased to about 210 trillion cubic feet of reserve. 200, it used to be about 195, 198. So that means even our gas reserves is increasing. And on the grid, the energy we get on the grid, 80% of it is thermal, which is from gas. So we are still heavily powered by fossil and its byproducts. But in view of the global drift towards clean and environmentally friendly energy sources, Nigeria is also, I can say confidently, in that traction of also adding green energy to its energy sources for so many reasons. Number one, we also have abundance of some of these energy sources. The sun is a typical example. By Energy Commission's study that was done, I think it was 2020. I think it's updated now. Shows that, look, if we're able to put solar panel on just 1% of the land mass of Nigeria, we should be able to generate so much quantum. I think it was about 140,000 megawatts of power that we could generate from that. I will reconfirm at this number. But it's clear that we could actually even power ourselves with just 1% of solar panel and land mass. However, there are constraints, there are going to be challenges, there will be issues to achieve that. So we still require that energy mix for security reasons. There's also energy security. So even if we have power to generate energy from the sun solely, it's not advisable to just move away from thermal, hydro, large hydros, and move away straight to solar. We need to balance our energy sources. We need to mix the energy combination that we generate in Nigeria. Another perspective is the fact of what we call this national grid. So let me come back to this national grid. And one of the challenges we have is that the grid is not capable to power us, has not given us enough energy to serve all the populace, over 200 million people, averagely 5,000 or 6,000 megawatts of power is unheard of. I mean, how we survive really? Many times I just think through it. How do we survive? Ordinarily, we should be having over 200,000 megawatts of power by international best practice. So what have we been seeing? So we have been seeing a lot of alternative, in quotes, alternative source of power. And this comes from generators. So Lagos alone, there was a study that was also done. It shows that Lagos currently is powered by over 15 gigawatts, about 15,000 capacity of generators. From the smallest size you can think of to the very huge generator plants that companies, factories run on. Then a survey was done recently by Sustainable Energy for All under the Energy Transition Plan, Energy Transition Office. And Lagos has about 4.8 million units of generators, different types that you can think of. Okay, so this is what has been, in quote, filling the gap for the energy deficit that we have. And so there is that need to think differently. How do we achieve energy for all? By year 2030, Nigeria signs to what we call net zero by year 2060. Some countries are doing 2030. Some others are doing 2050. Countries like the Scandinavian countries, like Denmark, Norway, and the rest, some of them are almost achieving that net zero in another couple of years. There are countries where basically they have, and it's also from the Nordic countries also, that their power generation is heavily dependent on clean energy sources. Okay, so Nigeria, we don't have a choice. We need also to begin to transit towards this cleaner, but it has to be gradual because we have fossil fuel in excess. What do we do with this fossil fuel? You see our biggest earner, foreign exchange earner, if I'm correct. So we seem to keep that pipeline of money coming in. But my own take is that gas is really a huge resource that we have, and we need to find a way of making this gas really. There's what we call, base load. There's an energy load that we need to even industrialize. Beyond going green and going clean, we also need to develop that base load of power for factories, for manufacturing, for logistics, for mining, and the rest. Okay, but transitioning is it's something that we need to do, and we need to begin to prepare for it. So for me, I've been in this space for about 12 years. So I left banking. I'm an economist. I'm not an engineer. But I just stumbled on this space when I was in back of industry, and we're looking at how can we power, customers, particularly SMEs, and the idea of scientific power came in, and for me it's been a very good run all the while. So in closing, how do we mitigate the risk? How do we ensure that smooth transition and avoid the risk of shortfalls? Because if we also don't do it properly, we might have that disruption. If we backtrack a little bit, when the Ukraine-Russian issue started, remember that many countries actually went back to either open their coal plants or turn on their, just to meet that energy shortfall. Okay, so that balance, that mix is what we actually require. But over 50% of close to 50 or 45% of Nigeria is not connected to the national grid. So there must be other energy sources that we have to consider. So even if we generate these 200,000 megawatts I mentioned earlier, and we put it on the national grid, number one, the grid is old, the transmission lines are obsolete. We might be having a lot of what do we call it? There's one word we call it, where the country will be total, grid collapse. We've seen about 2 or 3 this year. It was 12 times last year. And that's what might be the challenge if you don't, transit gradually, smoothly, and efficiently. So, in closing, like I said, I'm a renewable energy enthusiast. But I also know that there's a balance, and there should be a smooth transition between now and year 2060, where Nigeria has agreed and has signed and committed to net zero. I mean, well, this net zero does not mean we shut down all the fossil, shut down all our gas. It means that if we are generating some carbon from this part, let me say, for example, 50 million metric tons of carbon annually, then we will have to develop projects and programs that will sequester those, that will net off. Okay, so that means you must develop green projects, green housing, electric vehicles, that you can measure the carbon that is saving, and then you net off and it becomes zero. Okay, but I know that Nigeria is in traction, and that line of moving towards green and clean energy. I've lived in a house that's been powered exclusively the last 10 years by renewables, not connected to the national grid and no generator. And I think it's also possible, but it has to be gradual. And because there are rural communities where we need to also ensure that they are carried along, and that's where the issue of being equitable and just comes in. So this is my own views, and I'll say thanks to all the presenters from the recap that Prof gave. Thank you for your intervention. And Madam, thank you so much for inviting me. Over to you, man.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adaju. We're grateful for your brief talk. Very powerful, very insightful. At this point, I'm sure we have all spent so much energy listening and digesting from the various topic and the various speakers and panelists. So I wouldn't want to ask for question. I'll want to just move on so that we can close for today. But if you have any question, please do send it in, and we will pass it on to the speakers who will respond, and we can post this answers for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. So just in closing, for me to add to the discussion and everything, I won't take long, probably just 3 minutes. We know that since 1847, when James Young was able to distill a light liquid, it was used as a lamp for lighting up lamp. There's been an increase in the Earth's temperature since 1880 due to the use of, due to the petroleum industry that emerged. And this has, resulted in the increase in the Earth's temperature by with 1.1 degrees Celsius, which is 1.9 Fahrenheit. And since 1975, that's when the increase actually kicked in on the Earth's temperature. And with 0.15 degrees or 0.20 degrees increase per decade. So we can see that the Earth needs our care, and we giving care to the Earth means that we're giving care to living organisms that are on the Earth. Also giving care for the future of our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, the future generation that will be coming on. The care we are giving now will be the survival of not just us, but those of the future generation. So it's very important for us to take care of our land in every around the globe. Let's endeavor to speak up to power, as the USA former Vice President Al Gore says, speak truth to power, like your world depends on it. And yes, your world depends on it, because we know that there are associated risks to fossil fuel. We have the carbon dioxide emission, we have methane emission. All these, cumulatively affect the earth. You have the ozone layer, which is much impacted by, caused by the methane. So methane has 86 times more potency to disrupt the Earth's temperature than the CO2. So, and also our health is being impacted because the Earth is our bubble. There is cognitive impairment with carbon dioxide. So how can we know that, yes, the fossil fuel, they are responsible to manage this risk, but outside the fossil fuel industry, we individuals, we also have our responsibility. NGOs have their responsibility. The governments, they have their responsibility. The policymakers, they have their responsibility. So as individuals, as NGOs, as private organizations, I want us to speak to power to ensure that we bring organizations to be responsible and accountable. So one of the things that we need to do as individuals is to ensure that to help our indoor carbon dioxide management, make sure you have flowers and plants in your houses, in your, indoor, to help with the carbon absorption, because plants use up carbon and release oxygen. So have plants in your houses, have plants, have plants and gardens, have mini farms around your neighborhood, around your houses, so that you help with the carbon dioxide, emission. This will go a long way as we, take the step. But also we need to hold the fossil fuel industries accountable, because they are the one initiating this risk. So they also need to be responsible to address the risk. So we need to come together as NGOs, as private companies, to speak to power, speak to all these the fossil fuel and the policymakers, the government, hold the government responsible, and ensure that we have unity to be able to take our nations, our land, our atmosphere, to have the proper environment. The forest, of those days have been, really damaged. If I want to take some example now, because biodiversity is really impacted by the fossil fuel. So if I want to take some example from the Igbo land, Upo, there was the impenetrable Agbo Onyuko, but forgive me, Igbos, if I'm not pronouncing this well. So there's been, a great deforestation that has occurred, and has distorted the biodiversity. The ecosystem has been affected. All the flora and the fauna, everything is affected. The forest is important to us. The forest is important to us because you have the carbon dioxide being taken up by the forest, by the tree, and by the plants. So we need to encourage forestation. We need to kick against deforestation and ensure that we speak to power to do what is needful concerning the environment. In Nigeria, for instance, I have to, focus on Nigeria. There's always been, what is called a political instability. We need to speak up to ensure that there is stability in Nigeria, not just Nigeria, in Africa and every other, place around the globe. once there is political stability, things can fall in place, because then your economy will be stable, and every other aspect of, economy, or every other aspect of, let's say, industry, will have confidence. Even investors will have confidence in investing in Africa, or in any country. So it's important for individuals, NGOs, private organizations. Let us come together, work together to see how we can take our nation forward, how we can care for the earth, how we can ensure that the forest is preserved. We have our diversity, the original biodiversity, to be in place, and not have it all destroyed. So I want to thank you all. I'm grateful for all the speakers, for their time in preparing for today, for what they have, the insights they have presented to us, the solutions they have proposed. So, and for you that have been here since 11 a.m. So I want to say thank you, and those that joined later, thank you. And I hope that you will, this will be on YouTube, so that people can listen, people can follow instruction, and know what to do. So I'm going to be posting and how we can join the Climate Reality Project, that is founded by Al Gore, the USA former Vice President Al Gore, so that we all work together with various NGOs to make sure that we bring the fossil fuel industry to be responsible and accountable, because I know a lot of time, people say they don't. Why should you collect money from the fossil fuel to do things? But if you really look at it, they cause the problem, so they should use the money to solve the problem. Use the money to manage the problem. Use the money to ensure that there is proper transitioning into alternative energy. And I want to believe that this event will I pray that the governments of nations will come across it, and take responsibility in caring for the earth. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. Yes.